My mic was muted. Hello, and welcome to the Controversial Podcast, where we talk about anything controversial, RuneScape related, in terms of news and updates. I have here with me my beautiful, my gorgeous, my sexy co-host, Dragon Seance.
Hello, man.
And
Thank you. Please, you're too kind.
alright, you're just a co-host. Calm down. Alright. And my guest, first to 4K Telos zero font. First to 4K Telos, no food, no sign. 7th person to 4K Telos. He's done 4K Telos in every style. He's done duo hard mode Virago. He has the world record for 1K Telos at 4:24. Faster than most of you guys can do 0%. He's got the world record for AOD, and Yakumaru probably carry the fuck out of his teams. He is... One sec. Oh shit, I forgot to block the name. Like the fuck. Ideal Gas. Shit! Alright, that's the end of the podcast. Fuck it.
Hello, guys.
Where's the fucking clappers, chat? Come on. Get your shit together. But yeah. So.
You need an applause sign. That's what you need.
There is.
You need
Fucking-
flashing.
It's clap.
There.
Look at this boomer. He hasn't been on Twitch for like years. Doesn't know how to work the internet. Alright, so should we get straight into the first topic? Or do you guys want to introduce
let's go for
yourselves
it.
further?
No. That was more than enough.
Yep. Hard agree.
Ideal's embarrassed, dude. Alright, so let's start with the first topic. Favorite boss and why? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first because I have the least hardcore PvM experience. I would say my favorite in terms of design, rewards, etc. is probably Araxor. And there is a caveat with that. Bottom path has needed a rework for like 5 years. But I love the enrage mechanic, the fact that you can reset it. The drops have maintained their value mostly because of biting 3. But they've definitely retained their value. A lot of people don't even bother with T92s because it's such a minute DPS increase compared to like T99 prayers and stuff. But everything's retained its value. The drops overall are pretty good. It's difficult at 300% for your average player, but it's not so difficult that it's unapproachable at 0%. So basically, it has something for pretty much everyone. Again, if bottom path you could make quicker with some sort of skill-based mechanic, if there were levers in every light, and as soon as you hit the lever, the light moved immediately, and the amount of times it charged was based on how many times you hit the levers, so you could make it quicker if you were decent. I would like something like that. But
I was just
anyway,
gonna say, just like reduce the whole like him hitting the wall once, just it breaks instantly.
But it's still no skill. You want to add something that's
but
like
that
a
would be an
skill-based
easy way of
mechanic.
doing it. I don't think it's worth. I don't think they'd even consider investing like adding.
I know.
levels, So
I know. But anyway, so I would say Rax is probably my favorite just because of overall value. Most bosses before Rax are currently just damage sponges now. Like you can ignore the majority of mechanics for a lot of things. Like QBD has been mostly a prism and bladed dive exercise for years. And everything else is obviously you just sit there, sunshine, soul split. Like Corp is a joke. All of God Wars 1 and God Wars 2 is a
Corp
joke.
is dangerous, dude. I'll have you know.
Corp is oh my god.
Corp is dangerous.
With mutated barge, Corp is actually like good money. It's just so boring. Like the barging in, surging out, etc. Anyway, long story short, I think Rax is the best one I've tried. I have a feeling I'm going to really like the Elite Dungeons, if you want to count those as a boss.
Yeah, I
but
can count
yeah,
them as a boss.
I don't have too much experience with Telos. 12 kills, as we discussed earlier. But anyway, so I'm gonna stick with Araxor, and I'll be surprised if I don't know Ideal's answer.
I think we know both our answers being the same. What's yours, Ideal? And Linus?
So it's a really hard choice between Telos and Virago.
Ooh.
Like, honestly, I would have to give them a tie, but if I had to choose one, then Telos, just because of like how solo and scalable it is. But at the same time, like Virago is such a well-designed like group boss in terms of like scalability, because you can go from like 7-man normal mode and like massing or whatever to like duo hard mode, and it's like everything in between is like its own level and has something for like everyone at the high level. So
yeah, it's a completely different experience at every point,
the
right?
thing I love about Telos is like it's so diverse, like between the phases. Like even though it's a lot of it is still like cookie cutter DPS, but you still have to include like ice racking, breaking his freedom, stunning, especially P5, like the beams. I wish like more bosses had that kind of mechanic where like you can use stuff around you to your advantage, like the green beam, infinite to your adren. Like you use rotations there that like you wouldn't use at any other boss. So
yeah, like environment interactions and stuff. Does it?
Exactly.
Wait, what other bosses have like environment interactions?
Rago has the waterfall, so if you call that an environment.
Wait, no, I guess not really. I mean, like to benefit you or to like, I don't know. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
That's a good point, though. Is that something that they've said that they want to increase, and they're kind of doing it with the Slayer mob, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So.
Yeah, I guess Twins hard mode is kind of like that with the blue fire. God, who would have thought that? I wasn't even thinking of God War 2.
Well, Hellwar has environmental as well, especially CM with the mushrooms that
I actually like Hellwar
go all the way
challenge mode. I think
so do I.
I think it's a good boss. I think a lot of God War 2 was good. It's just released at the wrong time because a lot of the weapons were just, I mean, none of the weapons were best in slot, so other than getting perks from them.
Yeah.
But yeah, my favorite boss would be Virago, because that's when I started playing, like that's when I really got into EOC and wanted to get better at it. And I think it just involves so many like unique mechanics. That's what I like about it. That require like, especially like in the early stages, like when things were still being figured out, like Green Bomb required like quite a lot of coordination, especially on like last phase, because DPS back then was just a lot lower, so you had to like manage and coordinate people with Green Bomb, and because you don't get message. I haven't been to Vario in ages, especially Green Bomb, but you don't get a message in hard mode for Green Bomb, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like if the DPS pile got the Green Bomb, you kind of had to figure out, and we started like spreading out and stuff and figuring out like depending on people's we gave people priority numbers, and based on that you either walked out or in for your turn. And it was
you saved yourself. You started out with nostalgia goggles hardcore, but the rest of it,
I mean
the rest
I just like Virago is really good. I think another boss that is really good that's underrated or like not looked that much is like Legios, because of like the unique mechanic of like the interaction that it has with you, where you click and where the lightning drops. It's like very unique. That's not in
that is super interesting. Like I thought you were going to talk about the distance thing. So like the closer you are versus
there's a lot of things in Legios that I think are very good. Like they're easy to kill and shit, but like the mechanics is pretty fun. Like the closer you are, you do more damage. You have HP threshold, so you don't like just outright just throw out your DPS brainlessly, because like if you snapshot when it's at its threshold, you just lose like 5k damage. But it also like, you know, like I said, the lightning drops where, like the second lightning drops where you click, which is just very unique.
So do you like that though? Do you like thresholds? Because that's always been a common complaint, is damage thresholds.
Not necessarily. I'm just saying that it just makes it so you don't just mindlessly DPS. Like you have to have like a set rotation. You want to hit those thresholds with bleeds, not with like snapshots. Or
I'm just thinking of like rune dragons and stuff where people always complain, they always whine that like whenever there's a phase transition and you lose,
well, phase
a certain percentage of your DPS.
Transitions are a bit different because like you just a lot like the problem with rune dragons is you just had to wait a lot between transitions.
Yeah,
and it was like,
but damage caps in general, right? It's about prioritizing different abilities at different times. So what you're saying is you like the kind of like diverse DPS rotation. You're not just going with your standard.
I don't really like
abilities.
HP thresholds. I just like.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, it involved like it made you have to like think about your rotation. I guess it's not necessarily good. It's not necessarily needed. Like, there's better mechanics, I think, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. Anyways, yeah, let's move on to the next topic, which is combat balance. Do you guys think that range, melee, and mage are balanced? And if so, and if not, how do you think it should be changed?
Are we just going round the table? Because I probably have. Okay, so I think that they are currently in a better place than they have been in years. Obviously going back to like 2011, everything was melee, right? Mage couldn't compete. Range was far inferior. Everything was melee.
Mage started getting close with and then Staff of Anvil, but it's very expensive.
Yep, very expensive to use. And then, almost immediately after EOC, it started being Magescape. So, I mean, Drygores, when there was an imbalance between what T90s were out and weren't, obviously it was a different story, but Mage has kind of dominated the last 4 to 5 years. However, with recent criminal bolts and ingenuity of humans, etc., I think they're actually in a really good place. A lot of people say vulnerability is OP, like, it sets Mage completely apart from the others, but really, if you were to take vulnerability away from Mage, there would be no reason to use it. But criminal bolts are just so good that, I think those complaints are kind of misguided, especially with ingenuity of humans existing. Like, obviously melee has the best Zerk rotation, like ultimate rotation for pure DPS, but every style has something that makes it worth using. And they added Hex Thunderbow. They're adding this new Maul in less than 48 hours that does increase damage against range-based targets. So it's only going to be a matter of time before they add a staff that does increase damage against melee using targets. So they're adding elements to the game to keep the triangle solvent, and I think they've done a pretty decent job. I would say the respective styles are in a better position than they've been in the entirety of RuneScape, I would say. Because you look at old school, there's an imbalance, right? Mage has utility. Otherwise, melee just shreds everything. So I would actually say 2019, the balance between the three styles is the best it's ever been.
Yeah, I agree. Like, for the most part, Mage is pretty easy to use, but you get more involved with auto attacking, forte auto attacking, and all that. But overall, melee and range are still better DPS if you use them properly. With melee, you have to use mutated barge properly, and with range, you said you have the bolts, you have Eldritch Spec, which I think really changed up PvM a lot. How it goes through hit caps, it's definitely by far best for next now. Yeah. Where it used to be Mage with the try hard sweaties waiting for a kill, But yeah, each one is it feels diverse to use, you're not doing the same exact things that you are with each style at all anymore. Starting out PvM a few years ago, range and mage felt really similar, but it's I think it's at the point where it's fun to use each style and switch it up from time to time. So I think it's a pretty good balance right now.
You made a really good point with 4-tick auto attack, though. That gets all the attention with regards to tick manipulation for combat. But it isn't the only thing that exists, and we were talking about this earlier. You can 5-tick auto attack range. You can 10-tick auto attack melee, right? So every other rotation. So it's just everybody who's an experienced PvMer learns auto manipulation with Mage. So that's why it gets all the attention. But it's the same thing that I mentioned before with Vaughn. Like, if you were to take 4-tick auto attack away from Mage, what would it have compared to range? Like, there would be almost no reason to use Mage when you can just use range and Ingenuity of Humans vulnerability. Like, I think that's what a lot of people don't get when they start with the complaints about 4-tick auto attack.
Yeah, I also think that all the 3 combat styles are pretty well balanced right now. I mean, realistically speaking, like if you go into most games or in RuneScape that across like 10 years, it's very hard to like balance combat styles, or because one will always be better, and that's what people focus on.
People min-max, yeah.
And like looking at it from a realistic perspective, I think RuneScape has done a better job balancing, if it was intentional or not, than like most games. I think they're in a very good spot, but I feel like JX still thinks, based on the Reddit vocalists, that that Mage is still overpowered, and I feel like they might still continue to give range and melee benefits, which is scary. Because I don't know, I like maging, I like having to 4-tick, and if that becomes redundant,
which it very easily could. Yeah. We're near that point.
Yeah, and I don't know, I'm just, I guess, a bit afraid.
So looking at that though, current state of the game, right? Weapon diversity is a beta that is still ongoing, right? So wow, it's congratulations! Going to have untold effects on the combat triangle. So if you look at it, what are the most powerful? Obviously, the melee maces already got nerfed, 300% to 200%. But there's really good effects for both range and mage, with maybe mage being more powerful between the earth and fire spells. So I mean, we might be having a totally different discussion in 6 months' time. Like, the triangle might just be the complete opposite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell what they're going to do, because it's hard to tell if they're going to listen to Reddit or if they're going to, do the math out themselves on a dummy with the optimal if they're going to bring in Ideal to Cambridge and have him, DPS gem and go from there. Like, it's almost impossible to predict what they're going to do. So.
Yeah. Sorry, I was doing something. Yeah,
oops.
All right. So I think we're all in agreement that the 3 combat styles are in a pretty good place, right? Because I wanted to bring this up briefly because I feel like most people don't think that. Most people complain that one style is stronger than the other. Like, I think that melee should be the strongest. I think mage should be utility, and range should be the highest DPS range from distance. But at the same time, would you agree that mage takes more skill to use than range? Ideal,
that would be you.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think so. Like,
you don't?
With the range, you have to like be a lot more reactive, especially with like the Eldritch spec and bolts now. Like, there's a lot to, like, that you can do with range now, and in order to be optimal, you have to be like constantly bolt switching. Like, you get a Ruby proc, you switch to Hydrix, and it's a lot more complicated than Mage, where like you can practice your rotations anywhere.
Can you give like a
can you give us a situation for that?
So at AOD, it's like with Mage, like during P2, you can just like Deado and then AFK, basically do the same like cookie cutter rotations. But with range, you have to like use your like threshes properly. Like, you have to like make sure you're flanking and using your good dual abilities and tendril before you use Eldritch spec. And there's a lot more like going on that you don't actually practice anywhere else. Like Mage, like you can use it almost anywhere. Like, that's what makes it like better DPS for most people, because they're used to the rotations. But range, like, you vary your rotation a lot between bosses, so I feel like it's hard to use like optimally.
That's a good point. Is there's so many different criminal bolts that have such diverse effects that the like situational usage might be harder for some people to get acclimated to. So that's a good point. You don't really think about that too much. Everybody knows you use Ruby on Nex until end of Blood, and then you switch to Diamond. But this I have no idea what Ideal's talking about. I'm gonna put that out there. So that's a good point, though. Is it's just beyond the average player to know when to use each and every threshold with which bolt at what time, and with some of the updates on the horizon, it's just going to get more and more and more complicated. So it will be exciting to see the direction that Jagex goes in.
Yeah, the thing is, like with Mage, you can just like spam Sonic and Conch Blast with your auto, and then like use filler abilities in between, like D-Rider Switch or whatever, and it's like gonna be pretty good like DPS regardless. So even if like you don't use an optimal rotation like Tusco occasionally and like Chain or whatever, it's still gonna be decent because you have like Sonic and Conch to like spam. But it's not like as easy for range. So
leave it to Ideal to say 4-tick auto attack has made Mage more approachable.
I guess I have a hard time. I would have thought that Mage is generally harder to use than range, but I don't know how situational using the criminal bolts is. But yeah, I don't know. I like isn't like spamming Concentrated Blast and Sonic Wave essentially the same thing with a range? Can you like just make the same argument of Needle Strike and Dazing Shot?
Like you can, but the thing is, like with Mage, like it's every 4 ticks, so you're like a lot more spread out.
Spaced out. Okay, right.
Yeah, it's like a lot easier to keep track of your rotations as well. Things like line up really nicely. So.
Okay, I mean, I can't argue that because I don't know the numbers and such, but at the end of the day, I think we all agree that the 3 styles are in a pretty good spot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, what Ideal said makes a lot of sense because most of the abilities are homogenized, right? In terms of damage. So like you got your 157%, you got your 188%, etc. So it's largely homogenized across the different styles. But the criminal bolt effects are just tacked onto that. So so that's from what I'm hearing makes range just really beneficial with, as opposed to with Mage, you're just cycling between the same 4-tick auto attack rotation. You're kind of optimizing above and beyond the ability pure DPS rotation. So.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
So like,
it's beyond my.
Mage is essentially just like higher APM, but range is a lot more dependent on whether you hit the criminal bolt procs, essentially, right? Yeah. And you have to react upon that, and you have a more like more concentrated rotation since you're not doing it every 4 ticks. That's basically the gist of it, right? Okay. Well, let's move on to the next one. These are meant to be pretty quick topics, these starting ones. So, ideas for PvM rewards and mechanics.
Why'd you pick that for a short one? That could be a whole 3-hour
conversation. It's just like a PvM reward and a PvM mechanic that you'd like to see in RuneScape.
So we talked a little bit about reward structure, right? When we were talking about the Grimoire.
I just want one.
So
I just want one.
PvM.
What? No, yeah, this is meant to be short. That's why we've got that topic later.
All right.
If you read the topic list, okay.
So everybody's got like a bonfire, like PvM prep preset, right? So I think a good idea for rewards is more catering towards specific preparation styles. Like we got the Ogre Flasks within the last 6 months. We've got changes to the comp cape, and that will tie the Reef Walker cape that had made its way into everybody's bonfire preset. I think that a good opportunity for rewards, besides consumables, like food from a particular boss that's untradeable, is things that cater more towards prep. So if you have something that would boost the ability of a familiar, that's going to be my one example. So like you get a consumable, you use it on a pouch, it empowers the pouch, makes whatever the familiar does 25% better. That's my
there's
answer.
That lunar spell.
The lunar spells to feed the familiars.
What does that do?
It heals them.
No,
and like
no,
extends
Lunar
your
Spell
timer a
like,
little bit.
empowers them or some shit. Am I tripping balls? Doesn't it?
I don't know, unless you're thinking of something that I don't know about.
All right, I'll talk about.
Incense sticks were a good example of a preparation reward. That
Yeah.
incense sticks come from skilling. There's definitely something you could put in PvM. My example was just an essence that you could use on a familiar pouch and make it more potent. That's going to be my answer. And,
Yeah, I didn't think too hard about this, but like my answer would be like a lot of people like were like the green beam Telos thing, add it as a reward to max guild where you like tag it and then get 100 adren right away. I think that
Whoa,
would be like
max
really
guild.
nice.
Don't add it to max.
Maybe a little bit too OP, but quality life.
No, it
Or
wouldn't
maybe
be
not
OP.
max guild, but
Just not max guild. Just don't add any more shit to max guild.
player owned house.
Yeah, they could do.
There you go.
Who goes to a player owned house these days? Did make player like revitalize
where
that
else?
shit?
Where else do you fix your Cinderbanes?
I'm afraid of saying like let's get a POH expansion, because then some people just translate that into POH rework. Then JX will take 3 years to make something that we didn't even ask for.
The
So
spaghetti
I'm really
code.
scared. Like I want a POH expansion, but I'm just also scared that they might just go over the board and give us what we don't want and just completely rework how the skill is trained when we just ask for more rooms and more utility and shit like that. It's like I'm just scared at this point. But I didn't think about this. wait, so you two say you're like a mechanic that you'd like to see, then come back to me again.
Okay. All right. Give you
so
time
a
to
PvM
think.
mechanic.
I see how it is. All right. So one thing I would say that I've seen from other games is probably more of like, you were speaking to environmental, but I want procedural kills. Like, so for example, imagine if Telos, you started phase 1, and if you phased him on a particular part of the platform, phase 2 is completely different. So like, I think that's a good way to kind of change the staleness of some bosses is by making each kill different. And you might say, oh, well, just walk Telos to a particular part of the platform. Well, yeah, sure, but some of them could be more random than that. Like a good example is not if you kill them at a particular part of your rotation, because everybody's going to stall and do that intentionally. But if there were random elements and it changed the direction of each and every kill, I think that would be super interesting. There's some of those in other MMOs, and I think it always kind of lends to the variety of the fight. So I think that would be really interesting in RuneScape.
What is the closest thing to that right now? Is it? You said the Raxor, and the first thing that came to mind is like you not lowering the
poison
spiders
poison
in,
spiders.
and that transferring to P4 essentially.
That's what I was thinking, but that's like such an elementary example of it.
It's just it just essentially increases the damage and accuracy of Araxi, so it's not. It doesn't actually.
It could be way different.
Yeah.
Like, so the thing I think of is like, imagine like a Raxor was like changing colors, right, in P3, and whatever color it ended on changed the Araxi fight totally different fight. So I don't know, it's just something like that to make bosses a little bit more diverse.
I feel like that would be so hard to balance to the point that all of them are.
But it's not meant to be balanced, right? The point is that it's meant to be random and increase variety. So like,
I don't know if I like random like that.
Well, I mean that's another topic of this discussion, RNG and combat.
All right, so Ideal, what kind of mechanic would you like to see? Your own idea.
I'm not sure, honestly. Like,
it's a hard.
I really like group boss mechanics, like where you're forced to like communicate with your team. You know, like in RuneScape, it's like you can just like type everything together.
Yeah.
So it's like fine. Wish there was something like that was more instantaneous and reactive. Like nothing really comes to mind right away.
Barbarian Assault.
Yeah.
Barbarian Assault.
so everybody gets something on their screen that they have to communicate to the other players. That's the only thing I can think of in RuneScape. You have a horn to do that. Right, and there's only a couple options. So if you want to, you can really brute force.
Honestly, they could make it. I don't know. I guess there's not enough option. I don't know. I was just trying to think of a way that would make it so you have to use voice comms over typing. But so I think I experienced this a lot in like Destiny 2, but like almost it's like very, very hard to do any kind of Destiny 2 raid without comms, like doing it really well. Like you will always do it better with comms because you're always in the heat of the moment and you can't really press enter and type out the information because like a lot of the information is like BA. It's like you're getting that information exclusively from in an RNG way, and you have to like relay that to the rest of your team, and it's like you can't really do that in an FPS game. You know, while you're getting shot, you can't just stand still and just type it out. And also at the same time, other people are in the heat of the moment, and it's harder to consume that information in text form.
So look at like Team Split or something. Team Split being visible to every player. Think about if that were only visible to one player.
Oh,
right.
Ooh.
How about that?
Ooh, that sounds fun. Yeah, I just hate that you can do RS3 bosses, like group bosses, without voice comms. I think it should be hard to the point where you have to use voice comms if you want to do it optimally. Also for rewards, I just like to see, I think mutated abilities are a good direction, but I think they should expand even further. I think they should have like multiple layers of mutated abilities for the same ability. And
you've been playing too much Path of Exile, Omid.
No, it's not to do. I mean, it's from a lot of games. Like I think the ability pool of RuneScape 3 is too small, right? I think there isn't enough like choice or decision making. So I would like to. There's so much you can do with it, honestly, if you just expand on it. And I think a lot of people will say, "Oh, it'll be more confusing for new players," but I think it'll be more fun to try and like explore different abilities. Or at mid-level, right? Like you can just like try out new things to suit your playstyle, or use a certain rotation to suit your playstyle, whether it be more defensive or more offensive.
So there's no builds really in RuneScape. That's what kind of makes that so difficult.
Don't really work because you can wear any armor from any style, kind of thing. Like there is no class, so I don't think builds would. Are you talking about like ability builds?
I'm talking like ability builds, right? Okay. So like, say you could only change your abilities at one place. Let's just say it's at
this is one of my
control.
Ideas. Can I?
Yeah.
So basically, you would have designated one ability bar that you could put these mutated strong abilities, and you can only have like 12 of them, and you can only change them at a bank. So you have to make the decision of like 100 abilities of which ones you want to use. So that's basically it.
Yep.
So yeah. So you can have like a mutated number 3 barricade that, I don't know, like reduces
it's hard to think of these on the
reduces 20% damage in a 5x5 to your allies while also barricading it. Off the top of my, like, you can do so much shit, dude. Like you can just like come out with like you can come out with like so many different variants of every ability in like currently in RuneScape. It's so easy, but like obviously, like yeah.
It's easy to think of them. It's not easy to balance them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the numbers and such would need balancing.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think that's the hard part. I think coming out with interesting abilities that introduce different play styles and a different approach to the game, and like that suits different styles of play is the hard part. Like,
well, there's very little support in RuneScape, like support roles.
Well, again,
right?
It's like there's no class in RuneScape, so it's hard to create a support role, especially considering food is a mechanic in game, right? Which it isn't in most games. Like you don't just eat a bunch of food from your inventory.
Yeah, I think this is like a much long discussion, but like tanking in RuneScape is like not a thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And it'd be like hard to add support for like a tank role at any boss. So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it's essential, so you have a couple tanks at Rago. Obviously, you don't, but most teams have a couple tanks. I think
the perfect example is raids. I think in raids, most teams will
have a base and
have to switch.
Yeah.
Do AOD switch? Is that like meta for most teams? Or not?
Yeah. Just so like you can do DPS rotations without like getting
the
banged. But
pound
even
of-
now, like
yeah.
you can tank a lot more consistently with
Masterwork.
like the no, like you know how they added the mage like auto attacking where it's like a delay, so you can like react properly in prayer
Oh
switch.
right, yeah, I remember. Yeah, okay.
So like solo basing isn't even that bad anymore.
Oh, so you can now I completely forgot about that change. You can now consistently pray the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Previously, you just had to pray like either mage or mage or melee, depending on what gear you had, and then just tank the wrong hits, right?
Yeah, mostly just like
is
camp
it
melee.
50-50? Mage melee? Like,
I have no clue. I think so. Like, sounds reasonable.
yeah, okay. Well, let's move on to the next topic.
Alright.
Unless anyone wanted to add anything more.
Nope.
Okay. So the next topic is open access to 4K Telos. What do you guys think about that?
So I don't have much skin in the game on this one, obviously. The real question is, should everybody have open access to 113% Telos?
113 is that?
Because that's what I have. Yeah. No, so again, not much skin in the game. I don't see an issue with it, only because I say who cares, but somebody might care. So I don't really see a problem with it. It definitely allows you to practice like the defensive rotations required. And to be honest, some people might just do it for a meme just to see how quickly they get clapped. So I think it's fine. I don't have any issue with it, but I'm anticipating you guys might have other opinions.
No, I 100% agree. Who cares? Like, at this point,
My OBS hasn't DC'd. My OBS hasn't DC'd.
man, that's unlucky.
Do I restart stream? My OBS literally is still
just
streaming.
restart
It
it.
says
Just restart it.
that's really weird.
Fake DC to buy time.
Wait, I'm so confused. My OBS literally says it's.
It's
Alright, it's back on.
It's back.
Okay, that was really weird. My OBS never went down. That must have been Twitch's side.
Yeah, no, Ideal, I think you were in the middle of talking about the
that's
time
weird.
since release of Telos and people going for 4K.
Yeah, so like it's just a fun thing. You don't get any rewards out of it. It's like you used to try 4K. You don't get a timer. Like you get the timer, but it doesn't like actually show as like a time and like chat to use for records or anything like that. So I think it's like a fun thing. Let like more people try it.
How would you feel if this was a thing on release?
Then I'd be like a lot more hesitant to say it's okay. I'd say like let people like try it out, you know, like let the race get more competitive.
Yeah,
like,
I feel
to
like
4K.
I feel like it's an experience that you kind of work for, and it kind of like kills the motivation to go to 4K if you already have access to 4K. That's how I felt about it. But obviously, like you said, I kind of agree with what you said, is that it's been like 3 years, so who cares? But generally speaking, I don't think I like this if it was released like very early or on release date. Like
So you don't want to be able to set and rage for Hostilius day one.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Are you suggesting that it's coming out soon and it's gonna have an arrange mechanic?
I'm not suggesting it is. I'm not suggesting it's not. You know, remains to be
Yeah,
seen.
like I don't know, it's just like it's an exclusive experience for people who worked hard to get there. That's how I feel about it. But like, if it's been, considering it's been 3 years, I don't mind either.
I just think they need to set a standard, right? So for Telos, if they're adding 4K, if they're adding 4K practice mode like 3 years later, if they're gonna do it on a 3-year cadence,
maybe
whatever.
not 3 years. Maybe make it. I mean, 4K Telos is a long journey. I guess it's
been over a year and they haven't added tactics for Solak yet. So give them some time.
Yeah.
But yeah, 4K Telos is a pretty big, long journey. I don't know how many hours it takes on average, but it depends on the boss. Like for example, can you set a Raxor in Rage in practice mode? That's not a thing, right?
I don't know.
Is practice mode Raxor? I don't know anything.
It's so easy to get to 300% though. Is it really a problem?
No, I'm saying can, like, if someone wants to just try, like, they've never gotten to 300%, but they want to try it without.
I've heard the answer is no.
Like, for example, someone wants to practice 300% in Rage Telos, right?
Right.
Araxel.
Right.
And they don't
I've
want to
heard the
have.
answer is
They
no.
don't want to have to do like 15 kills to get there. You know, they just want to practice the hardest mode. They don't want to have the thing reset every day. So.
Yeah,
God
that's fair.
forbid they have to wait an hour. But yeah, I don't think it's an option according to what people are saying. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, let's move on to the next topic, which is macros, and should they be integrated into the game, and would it be a slippery slope?
Let's switch it up. Ideal, you go first.
Whoa, switching up.
Whoa!
This is my podcast. Can't switch up.
Well, personally, I wouldn't mind if they did like wand orb macros, like blade dive, like the weapon equip as a macro. Like anything more than that, yeah, that would be like a pretty huge slippery slope. But I would be in favor of using macros. Like personally, I don't macro, but like that's just by choice because I just find it like a lot easier to like equip wand and orb separately, even though I mess it up a lot. Like you know how it's like a lot easier to have control over it when I want to like just switch to a rebounder when I have wand orb equipped already.
Yeah.
And, So like for example, when you blade dive to the end of the Telos platform, you can like just equip wand and install an ability. If you do like use a macro, you have to like wand orb, then equip Excalibur, or like click from your inventory. So I think it's like a lot more control for me. Although I will agree that having a blade dive macro is like 100% reasonable because you never need to like equip stuff like.
Wait, when you say
by
blade
itself.
dive macro, you're saying like.
Wand orb. I mean, not wand orb, but like main hand, offhand.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant main hand, offhand, blade dive, and a left click.
Like I think stuff like that is just like quality of life and reasonable to have in the game.
So if there were, so my thing about all this is there should be a cost to unlock this stuff. Like if it were a reward to be able to use bladed dive with dual wield melee weapons in your inventory. Okay.
Oh, no.
But you have to earn it.
No.
But you have to earn it somehow.
No, I don't think that should be the case.
Okay.
That's like saying like revolution should be earned or something.
Well, no.
Like
So
he's
not
basically
at all.
saying just
it's an enhanced ability.
He's
It's
basically
enhancing
saying
bladed
like
dive.
just the ability to equip main hand offhand with one input.
All right.
That's
How about a quest? Listen.
Okay,
a quest
listen.
with the reward, concealed carry. Right? It's a perk, and then you can do it. You can bladed dive with the weapons in your inventory.
So you're saying I can have wand and orb equip and dual wield in my inventory, and I just blade dive?
And you just bladed dive, but you have to have your dual wield weapon has to have concealed carry on it, and you get
even
the
thought of the name
ability to
for
get
it.
Yeah, right.
I just thought of it. I didn't take any notes for this podcast. I just thought about it.
Oh, the thing is, like macros are like a standard of other MMOs, so.
You do
I
have
think
a yeah. You first. Sorry.
So yeah, I just think like it would be natural to have it in RuneScape. So.
I think that's a bad argument because other games, MMOs, generally have a lot more coordination and teamwork, and that's what's focused on. And in RuneScape, a lot of the focus is on mechanics, on your inputs and such. So I think that's an important aspect of RuneScape, whereas it's not in other games. That's why they're like more leaning towards having macros. So I mean, if RuneScape ever becomes a game that's heavily focused on like coordination, teamwork, then sure, but I would say a lot of the focus is on your mechanics right now in RuneScape.
Yeah.
I think that's the highest skill point of PvM.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I would say I'm anti macro at this point.
I mean, realistically speaking, it's probably the right decision to have the ability to put a main hand offhand onto one action slot, but I would like it not to be the case, and I would like people to get banned for macroing, but I don't think that's a realistic.
Yeah.
I don't think that's realistic.
There have to be drawbacks. Like, say you could use your wand on your orb, and it says, "Do you want to join these forever?" And then it becomes a one-click switch. So you have your Praise Soul and your Imperium core. You use one on the other. It becomes one item.
No, I don't like that either.
Well, so there has to be a drawback, right? You have to buy a second wand for your,
because
your defensive perks,
at that point, people continue to macro and not actually use that in-game.
I mean,
feature.
if you have
people would ideal would just buy 3 Prasels, or 4 Prasels, whatever you need.
That sounds so terrible, kind of.
Like in the game right now, if you have a Dragon Claws in your inventory, if you have main hand and offhand, if you equip the main hand, it'll automatically equip the offhand. So like,
yeah. So we know the technology.
I like the ability to customize the 2 items that go into one action bar, because like one in orb, one in shield, like one in flanking switch.
Yeah, that's fine as long as you can never undo it.
No.
You have to join the wand with the shield, join the wand with the orb.
Okay, I think we should move on.
yeah.
All right, next topic. Oh, we're going to the big topics now. So, continuous 4-tick auto attack removal. Was it the right decision? What do you guys think should have been done? So, let me just say that the reasons that JS gave for 4-tick auto attack removal was 1, it caused a lot of elitism and toxicity in group PvM, primarily AOD. 2, it was a bug. And 3, it was overpowered. Who wants to go first?
Ideal knows more about it. I'll let him.
What do you guys think of it? Do you think it was the right choice, and what would you have preferred happening?
I mean, honestly, at this point, I don't mind that it was removed, but it was definitely the wrong decision. I think like continuous 4-tick takes a lot more skill than like 4-tick right now, and like boss times actually got faster after C4taa was removed because people were able to use like easier, better rotations because they're able to spam Sonic and Conk with their autos.
Man, you're really hating on mages right now with this spamming Conk and the.
I mean, it's
Sonic.
actually that easy though. But like with C4taa, you would see a lot of people, like me included, like for sure, like to spam like auto Tuska, auto chain because nothing else is up.
Hey, why
auto
are you hating on Tuska? Use that in the Telos tournament. Are you saying it's bad?
Yeah, dude, Tuska is sick as a filler ability, but definitely not something you use every 15 seconds off cooldown. But yeah, like they definitely had the most incorrect reasons for removing C4taa. So that was my problem with it.
I think the logic that they put forth publicly is not always the logic that they're actually using to make decisions. So for them to say, "Oh, we're doing this to reduce toxicity," I don't know how much toxicity there was with regards to C4 versus regular 4-tick.
I think
I don't think anything changed because
I don't think it changed anything.
As soon as continuous 4-tick auto attack was removed, people are gonna be toxic about Dragon Rider switching. Like that's
exactly.
People just move on to the next thing. That's how it is. You can't change your game or implement updates to adapt to the community, part of the community that is toxic. Those people won't change because they're just unhappy human beings that take their anger out on others.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I will put forth though that I do not mind that they removed it because it was an incongruity between the styles, right? So range still has the 5-tick auto attack, melee still has the 10-tick. So it was an incongruity between the styles, and mage is still competitive. So from a balance perspective, I don't mind that they did it.
Yeah,
but the reasons they put out were not great.
I mean, I agree with what Ideal said, which was like, I don't mind how it is now, but initially I didn't agree with it being removed because I think, I mean, people might laugh at this every time I say it, but RuneScape is a heavily mechanical game for an MMO. Like, it's probably the most mechanical MMO I've ever played, right? And I think the continuous 4-tick auto attack was just a skill ceiling that was really fun to try and achieve. And one of the ideas that I put forward was that they just give continuous 4-tick into every style, but for melee they would just reduce the auto damage when doing continuous 4-ticking. And I thought balancing around that afterwards would have been better, but obviously they took a different route. It just didn't make sense because they one of the reasons they gave was it was a bug, but then they kept 4-ticking, which made no sense. I'm like,
yeah, they kept 4-ticking, they kept 5-tick range. So it definitely, again, the reasons were not great, but at least they're being somewhat more consistent now with the hunter change. Although since we had our last podcast, they came out that the new Hunter skill cape perk is going to allow you to, tick manip Hunter like you did before.
Well,
so they went from inconsistent to consistent back to inconsistent.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they just basically, I don't know who they listen to whenever it comes to like feedback and comments. I would love to see, like, every time they make these posts and they're like, we listen to your feedback, we listen to your I'm like, I want to see these fucking comments, all right? I want to see them. I want to see what swayed Jmods from doing something. It's just like
to be a fly on the wall at that meeting.
It's really frustrating when they come out and like make a decision based on feedback where I'm like, just like, how did they like justify their feedback? What was their reasonings? Like,
you never know, you could be that reason. Like when that Hunter thing came out, I had made a post that said like, this completely ruins what made Hunter unique, like the rhythm of training Hunter, blah blah blah. So you never know what they who they listen to.
I don't know.
So I'm glad they changed Hunter back, but
I also
it is
think
inconsistent.
the Hunter effect shouldn't be on the 99k. I think it should be like a reward from Big Game Hunter, for example.
Add it somewhere else. Yeah.
But yeah. All right. Ready to move on to the next topic? We still have two.
Well, I got one more comment.
Right. Go. All right.
I like that you added potential slippery slope question mark to the macro discussion, because we saw that happen, like the slippery slope fallacy affect people's decision making very recently with the old school vote. So while something in itself might not be wrong or offensive, the implications of the precedent it sets may be problematic. So I think you were right on here in that macros for, wand and orb switches or wand, shield, wand, rebound, or whatever are okay in and of themselves, but it sets a bad precedent for switchscape, right? So like, are you going to need to be able to do tick perfect 8-way, 10-way switches? Is that going to be the meta in a year's time? Because you can basically soul split heal everything. Like, it does have huge implications on the future of the game. So, off the cuff, and I just thought about this right now. What if you had equipment presets?
Equipment presets?
So like,
can you explain?
Yeah.
So like, you could set a preset for your equipped material that you could put on your action bar. So like set 3 presets and then switch between your presets by pressing Q, W, or E or whatever. Do you get what I'm saying?
Wait, no.
Yeah. It's like armor switching at Solak, basically.
Yeah. So you can like 8-way switch.
I couldn't hear what
one button.
With one button. Nobody would complain about switchscape
okay,
anymore.
I got you, man. Okay. What do you guys think about switchscaping?
I'm terrible at it, so like it sounds appealing, but at the same time, that sounds so OP that.
The whole like.
I don't think I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, but that's a slippery slope, right? Like,
that's my
since
point.
Wand and Orb is being implemented, what's stopping Helm, Body, and Legs being implemented?
Right.
That's what I'm afraid of. That's like I said, realistically speaking, it's the right choice, but unrealistically, I would like macros to be banned and no macros to be implemented. So
I agree with you.
I'm just scared, dude. Like, eventually you'll just be able to put like I think what Gunnar was saying is like any amount of equipment slots into one action slot, which is absolutely insane.
And you'll be able to switch everything you're wearing just to lunge, everything you're wearing just to flank, everything you know what I mean? Like, it would make hybriding much more popular.
Yeah.
I think switchscaping is an aspect of the game that again makes the game more mechanical and has its own skill ceiling, but I don't think it's necessarily good. I like it because it raises the skill ceiling and it's something to do, but at the same time I don't think it's exactly the most enjoyable thing to do. That's how I'd put it.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry for the derailment.
No worries. I mean,
going.
we have quite a lot of time, so. All right. So the next topic is what number am I on? Fuck. Oh wow, I pressed the right one.
Second and long.
Is power creep bad? and is the game too stagnant? And we're trying to stick to PvM primarily when having this discussion. And this is a pretty big one, right?
Ideal.
So, you what?
So
Oh,
I think power creep isn't necessarily bad, but like at the rate Jagex introduces new content to the game, then I guess I see why they don't add power creep. Like if like you're only adding better damage to existing bosses, then it's like I see why they don't want to do that. But I think that speaks more to like how little Jagex is updating content for the high level rather than power creep itself. And I think power creep is what makes the game more fun, you know? Everyone likes to see hitting like 15Ks in your Zerk and stuff. So
yeah, it feels good to get stronger. It feels good for your character to get stronger.
Exactly. It's like a sense of progression, even if it's not like actually like a grind or anything. But
which is one of the reasons why people flipped shit when Comp Cape was worse than Kiln, which it's still going to be, but you know, very.
Yeah, nobody likes regressing, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm gonna agree with that entirely. But I'm gonna put forth kind of a solution for the problem you said. So basically, what you're saying is they can't, because they update weekly. Introducing power creep could snowball very quickly and make all existing bosses outdated very quick. However, other games have that exact problem and deal with it by adding like heroic and like legendary instances of the same bosses by just scaling up the attributes.
Basically,
so I don't
mode and rage.
Right, exactly. So like to say that they couldn't do that for like a hard mode court beast, right? It's crazy. Like they shouldn't not update the game because current content becomes outdated. Like I think they should have learned their lesson for that by now. But we've been on T92 for 5.5 years or whatever, so maybe not.
Yeah, I think being stuck on a 1092 is definitely what has made the game for me like unexciting. Like we went from what was the highest gear? It was tier 80 when Virago and Calfight King came out, right?
Yeah. It went from 80 to 90. 80 to 90. Yeah.
That
huge
was
difference.
Huge difference, yeah. And like to the point you were saying like about Hex Hunter Bow and what was the other one? The new ones that's coming out?
The Maul. The Maul is coming out Monday.
I just like they're meant to be niche, but like they're not significant enough for me to be excited over it. That's how I feel about that. I feel like if you're gonna release niche gear and niche weapons, they should be really strong at what they do.
I mean, they are. They're like T90. They're like T98, aren't they?
Are they? I thought they were like tier 93 or something.
No, where they work, they're like tier 98.
No.
Yeah.
Hex Hunter Bow is not tier 98 against me.
Okay.
Is it? Wait, do you know Ideal?
Yeah.
I don't think it was that good, but
yeah, it's like
be wrong.
It's like. All right, do we have any big brainers in the Twitch channel?
At Couchy.
It's definitely not tier 98. Like I'm 100% sure.
I've seen that bandied about.
Bandied about.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep going. Somebody will confirm and or deny.
Okay. Well, I think like stuff like that should. The problem with the Hex Hunter thing is that it's not niche enough. It's too widely. It can be too widely utilized, right? For example, like an idea I had like the other day was just the tier 75 range armor would work as a tier 99 range armor in land out of time. Like
that's great.
That can't.
So
be
you're talking like
utilized.
more set effects.
Well, I'm
like
just,
elite, like the elite T92s. The armor. So the armor doesn't degrade in elite dungeons.
Armor, by the way.
That just Reddit freaked out. And said 9% extra damage under Sunshine is Sunshine and Death Swiftness is overpowered and unimaginative. So they were like, "All right, see us in 6 months when we think of something else." That's what happened.
I also saw posts about like, why don't they make like abilities that aren't used or things that aren't used in combination with the tier 92 armor, like making rack, or like making I don't know, impact and chain a lot stronger. with
Yeah,
the
that would be
set.
very interesting.
But like at that point,
Yeah.
you just that just becomes the best thing, and that's just what's used all the time. Like I feel like people don't understand that when you revitalize something, it just becomes better than everything else. Everyone just does that over everything else, and you just go to the same problem. I think like reworking stuff and trying to revitalize stuff is always like a really bad decision, instead of just trying to progress the game and add new stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with power creep, it should be done in a way that it should like change how you play the game, how you use ability rotations. Like for example, mutated barge, I thought was like a really good update. It made melee using melee a lot more fun. But I think like currently in the game, like they're trying to like slow the power creep because they don't want to like make bigger changes to the game. For example, the 10k hit cap. There's so many things now that hit above 10k, and they like add the grimoire so you crit 15 up to 15k, but like that 10k hit cap is like just a nuisance, and pretty sure it's like coding work that they don't want to do. But I think it's like necessary for like the long-term health of the game to remove it.
I think.
Yeah,
how do you guys feel about like grimoire like affecting crit? Because I don't think that. I think RuneScape should either get fully involved with their items in crit, or just completely ignore that it exists and don't add anything to it. Because like grimoire is the only thing that affects crit apart from a few abilities, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's like
I'm saying like most games just have like a crit build. There's a lot of items that you can like combine to create like a crit build. But with RuneScape, there's not many. Right?
They have been focusing on it more though with like mutated fury and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just there's no.
Are you talking about like crit chance or like the crit hit itself?
Crit chance and crit damage, like both features that make a crit build in most games like usable. But I don't think there's enough items right now for that to be a thing, and it's too RNG based. I get that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think. Do you guys think that
that's a bigger discussion? That's a bigger discussion.
Well, I mean, it's just like I don't think that's that big, is it? Like, it
really is. That's RNG in combat.
Okay. I guess we'll get to that. That's next. So, but what would you guys think they should do with power creep and to make the game feel less stagnant? Like, do you guys think that a new boss? What tier do you think they should release? You know.
I told you, challenge mode for a bunch of existing bosses, go up to T95.
T95, is that what you're saying?
I mean, they could go to T99 or T105 and increase all skills to 120, but they're not going to do that quickly.
I like that.
So, they're not going to do that quickly. So I'll take T95, hard mode corp, hard mode corp.
A few other you're things. Out of the fucking cast. Use physics in here. He's the worst co-host ever.
But I think they are stagnating because they're afraid. And Ideal was right on the nose, is the game updates so often that it could so quickly snowball. Like, look at how easy God Wars 1 is. Like, you turn Soul Split on and literally walk away. Like, they don't want God Wars 2 to be God Wars 1, basically, and they don't want the content that people are doing right now, because it's profitable, to lose its profitability by becoming piss easy. I think that's why they're afraid of power creep.
I think they're reluctant of adding power creep because they're not willing to add any more high-end bosses. I don't think they value high-level bosses as a good use of their time. That's what I think.
Hard agree.
I mean, look at Solak. Solak was a pretty big flop. It was a pretty big flop because it didn't have power creep, in my opinion. Imagine for a second, Solak was 7-man only, no duo, and it dropped like tier 99 range dual wield. Like your balls would explode. You know, like everyone would be on that shit and it'd be so fucking exciting to get a drop. You know,
for sure.
That was the main issue with Solak, in my opinion. I think it's a pretty good boss, personally. It's just the reward system is meh. And that might not be dictated by the developers themselves. That might be like management that decides on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think once Solak was
yeah.
polished up, it was like a really good boss. Like, it can be really fun. It's like a lot. It's pretty unique compared to like other bosses because you hybrid mage and melee. So
Yeah. Okay.
But why was the release, do you think, marred compared to something? Let's just use Virago, like we were talking about. Obviously, it's a different time period in the game's development. But why was Virago so well received by the PvMing community? And Solak is much more niche. Like a lot fewer people do Solak than did Virago.
Virago was the first edition of like a really good group boss. I think that's why.
So that's what you think it was? Is the communal aspect?
And it had like a lot of unique mechanics, and it just introduced a massive power creep, which was Seismic Wand and Orb. Especially considering Concentrated Blast back then was 200% damage, right? The power creep went from like to like here. It was like a massive power creep. Like, Mage was so good back then that using Virtus Wand and Orb book was better than melee in range, and melee in range had tier 90s back then.
Yeah,
like that's how strong Mage was, and to get like a tier 90 upgrade was absolutely insane.
Okay, so that the last couple discussions,
it was like also 2.4 bill wand drop was just like it's just exciting, right? Like that is just like I don't know.
I mean, for the first couple weeks, that's what Blightbounds were.
Huh?
Yeah, true. Comparatively, like Blightbounds were max cash too, but max cash doesn't mean nearly as much. They
didn't last max cash.
No, like less than a week. Yeah.
Like how much they stabilize at? Like a month.
1.3. 1.3, 1.5.
Seismic Wand was 2.4
for like a year, right?
to 2.6 for like 9 months.
Yeah.
Orb was around.
The thing is, like with Blightbounds, they're like useless. You know, if you have Ascensions, like the only places that you really ranged back then were well, like still now, honestly, like range necks, rots, where you only use the offhand and main chins, and then like AOD B2. So it's like Ascensions work completely fine. You're not gonna like save nearly as much time as like anything, you know, like the tier 99 prayers a lot more like cost effective. Like nobody's gonna pay 2.4 bill for Aerithor's crossbows if like they don't like main range, you know.
Right.
Yeah, especially with Eldritch coming in as well, that uses the same.
People didn't expect Eldritch at the time though.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying like in the current state, like it just like essentially devalued it a bit more.
So here's a question that I just got reminded of by talking about tier 99 prayers. How do you feel about content being balanced around a certain level of expectations, and then the day it comes out, like the community backlash causing them to make a small change that completely throws the balance that they had intended out the window? Like tier 99 prayers being an overhead, like player-owned farms being able to breed in a pen that isn't the breeding pen. Like the balance that they originally had in mind and what ends up happening is sometimes very, very disparate. Like, do you guys think they should ignore feedback and like put the reasons why? Or do you think that they should cave and rebalance at a later date? So like for player-owned farms, they make it so you can only breed in one of the sized pens. You know what I mean? So I just think they take things that are underpowered, very quickly make them overpowered because the community complains day one.
I think that JMods should be like a JMod that listens to feedback should be knowledgeable and experienced enough of the game to be able to like know which feedback is good for the game and which feedback is bad for the game, rather than just listening to who screams the loudest or what complaint is the most common. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but it can be a bad thing if the JMod is not confident in their content that they've developed and the balancing reasons that they've given. You know?
Oh no, that's so like, sometimes the community is completely right? Like sometimes the criticism is warranted and we want the feedback to come through so the JMods can make better decisions for balancing game content. But I think sometimes it's a knee-jerk reaction to a little bit of criticism, and it ends up having lasting effects on the game. Like right now, magic seeds are 18k. And the reason that is because you can breed in every pen. Praesil Codex is still like over 500 mil, which keeps AOD active. But the reason for that is that it got changed from being an overhead, obviously. So,
well,
I don't know. I just think sometimes
if it
it's
stayed
major.
an overhead, would anyone really use it?
Yeah, you'd still flick it.
You would flick between Soul Split and overhead. Like, it wouldn't. I feel like Soul
You'd
Split
still
would be
use
more
it.
valuable.
You would still use it.
Really? You think so? What about you, Ideal?
Yeah.
Do you think people would use it?
Depends where. Like Farago, where you're DPSing always, then yeah.
What about
like-
Telos, for example?
It depends if you can afford to camp it without healing. I think it's like exactly like Eldritch spec right now because you don't heal with it.
Yeah.
So basically like similar usage to that. I think it would still be used like a fair bit. It's not like everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mind the change. I just didn't like AOD having those rewards because AOD essentially has 4 tier 92s, right? Essentially. Prayer codices are generally better than weapons as well, right?
Yes. By almost double.
Double?
Compared, like, the difference between T99 and T95 prayer is almost double the difference between T92 weapon and T90 weapon. It's like 4% to 2.4%, I think.
I always thought it was roughly the same. I don't know where you're getting these
the
numbers.
prayers are
I don't know
better.
where you're
The
getting
prayers
these
are
numbers
better.
from.
The prayers are
A
better.
tier 98 hex on
The prayers are better.
Yeah, generally speaking, I think the prayers are better.
Yeah, the prayers are better. But, like the weapons are like a little bit more accuracy, but like
Yeah.
damage wise, overall, prayers are definitely better.
The thing with prayers is that you don't need multiple sets of weapons. It works across all weapons essentially, rather than like if you are like for example, if you're gonna use mage, you just get the codex, right? Versus you getting Praiser 1 orb and staff Siske. You know, it's a much greater investment generally.
Yeah, the exact figures that I eschewed were corrected in the chat almost instantly.
Yeah.
So that's okay. But anyway, so continuing on the topics, Omid, do you want to move to the next one?
Okay. Do we want to move to the next one?
I think so, because I think it's kind of
Okay, yeah. All right. So, RNG of hit range and splashing. Do you think it's a good thing? How would you want it to be changed, etc.? Who wants to go first?
So I would say it's less pertinent in the content that I've done, whether, you hit that RNG of a, 10k or 15k crit. But for phasing high-end bosses, it definitely has a huge impact. If you remove all of that RNG, it takes away some of the reactionary element of the game, right? It makes it more just do this rotation in this order at this time, and you'll phase, the boss. But on the other hand, if you leave too much of it to RNG, it is less satisfying to kind of optimize a rotation, less satisfying to invest in equipment. But it does open reward space. We were just talking about the Grimoire has the effect on crits, and the mutated abilities that affect crits. Needle Strike obviously affects crits. So I think the fact that it opens up
damage. I think it's 7%.
Oh, it's 7% damage. Yeah, I think you're right. No, you're right.
Just interrupt this idea if we're saying something wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say, feel free to correct us.
You're probably more knowledgeable than me on a lot of these numbers.
But yeah, so I think the fact that there's reward space for crits, reward space for ranges, like you look at Precise and Equilibrium, I don't really mind the RNG because it does up the skill cap by introducing some, reaction to it. And it also, again, opens up the reward space for hitting the higher end of that range or the lower end, etc., raising your floor or lowering your cap. Looking at like the Equilibrium perk, Equilibrium aura, stuff like that. So I have no problem with the RNG element. However, again, it's probably more relevant to like 4K Telos and stuff where it can be the difference between phasing at the right time, phasing at the wrong time, etc. So Ideal, tell us how I'm wrong.
So I think it's like really complicated because in terms of like balancing compared to like the current system, like removing splashing would be like such a completely like it's such a game changer, you know, because if you're not splashing your stuns or ices or vulns or anything, then it just like completely changes how you do like your rotations, because you don't have to adapt nearly as much, honestly, if you're like hitting everything. Like P1 Telos will literally be like the same
every
stuff.
time.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
impatient procs maybe, but
So that's the thing, is there are already procs, right? There's
Yeah.
perk procs, there's ability procs, less so, more introduced with like Mutated Fury and stuff. Like where if Mutated Fury itself crits, there's a different effect.
Yeah.
So I like it. It does make it more reactionary and it makes experiences more varied, but I could see how it would be frustrating at like the highest level of PvM.
So I'll just chip in and we'll go around again. So I think the removal of splashing and the hit range, like reducing the hit range, would reduce a lot of the excitement when it comes to PvM, like hitting the hard hits, like hitting like a crit wild magic instead of like a 1k. But it also like consistently rewards you for your efforts and your strategy, which I like. So me and a user called Ragu had a pretty extensive conversation about this, and we basically came to the conclusion that it'd be really nice if they essentially completely remove splashing, right? So instead of you splashing when you have a 90% hit chance, you essentially hit 90% of your damage instead.
90% or 10%?
No, 10% would be reduced. No, you hit 90% of your damage.
Okay.
When you have 90%
gotcha.
accuracy.
Okay. I thought you were talking for like Debil and stuff like that, where instead of splashing, you hit like a nominal amount, like a negligible amount, but you got the effect of the ability.
No, you basically just do X% of the potential damage based on your accuracy, rather than having a chance of splashing.
Gotcha.
And the other case would be like just reducing the hit range drastically and just at the same time reducing the damage so it averages the same. So again, this would make the game potentially more boring because you're not hitting those exciting hits, but at the same time it feels very rewarding to actually like get the result you expect based on your inputs. And I think this would be also a lot better with what I brought up earlier, which was a high variance of abilities, like basically introducing 100 new abilities. Become a lot more strategized. But yeah, so
somebody made a good point that there goes ingenuity of the humans. Like, what would the purpose be? I mean, but I think that's a very myopic viewpoint. You could change the effect of it.
I remember having this. We brought up Vol and other things like that, and I forgot what the consensus was.
You can just as easily change the effect, right? Instead of it auto landing the next hit, it auto crits the next hit.
I forgot.
Like,
I forgot
it's
what
still
we
very
said.
valuable.
You could make like Vol and stuff like that still have an accuracy. Like, for example, if you have like like mage, helm, body, legs, weapon, and offhand, you have 100% accuracy with Vuln. But if you have like melee in every slot, you have a 0%, just a flat 0% across all bosses. Okay. I mean, I don't remember what conclusion we came to. We talked about it for like 2 hours, and he made a pretty good Reddit post. So this is quite a while ago, so I don't remember exactly what solutions we came up with. But what do you guys think about just generally the damage? Like basically, instead of you missing, you do just a static X% damage based on your accuracy.
Ideally, you can go first. I got an idea.
So I think it would be like interesting, but don't think it would be necessarily better than the current system. Like, splashing has just been like such a integral part of the game for so long.
Wait, so you think splashing should stay?
Honestly, yeah. Like,
I need a new guest. Artophonies, you're coming on, buddy.
I don't like strongly prefer that it stays, but like, I don't think that's like where the priority should be in terms of like the combat system. Like,
all right, this is very tangential, but what do you think are the priorities for moving forward with the combat system?
So, There's a lot to say, but basically, like, just make it more fun, more involved, like more abilities, like more things to experiment with.
Okay.
I'll be their ideal gas when you splash your auto detonate wild magic. All 4 splashes, I'll fucking spam your chat with your quote of splashing is a good thing. Forehead. I'll be there.
But it will be interesting. So you will be able to have that stream moment with that, ideal.
And he'll be angry. He'll be very upset. And I'll be pissing myself. I'll be loving every moment.
And it will all be thanks to splashing. So I mean, I guess I don't really.
One key aspect I do like is the reactionary side, but I think that's like I think you can remove splashing and keep the hit range and still have that. You based on like what your hits are, you make decisions. But I personally. Kinda. Sorry, go on.
Just things with like Stadius Warhammer and Gothic Staff, even if like you just turn them into like a damage boost instead, just like think it would be a completely different playing field, you know?
I mean, it's essentially the same thing if you think about it. It's just less RNG, right? Like if I'm 90% accurate at Telos, I'm doing 90% of whatever damage I'd be doing, right? But with Stadius Warhammer, obviously that'll be increased to 100%. That's basically the same thing as just how it is now. It's just more consistent.
So do you think like Stadius Warhammer should also have an accuracy if you're using with major range?
I mean, yeah.
So like I don't know, it just feels like kind of inconsistent, you know?
This is getting to a much different conversation because we're talking about like special attacks now, basically, which is a whole nother
It's the same
component.
topic of like splashing and stuff. I don't remember. I don't remember how we came to the conclusion of like using different armors and with different weapons, but I just remember us coming to a pretty good solution. I think, anyways.
So that would largely increase Switchscape, though, right? If it was dependent upon your like chest and legs, you'd be bringing chest and legs in all 3 styles to land different things. So
I mean, don't you do that already? Unless you use
you do for a lot of things. Yeah. But
it would basically be like I don't see how it wouldn't be essentially the same. It just be a lot more consistent, and you wouldn't have like you wouldn't have like crazy bad RNG. Like if you brew down, you're just doing less damage. You don't just your damage doesn't essentially get nulled. Like for example.
So I like the idea. I just think that it reduces the RNG and reactive element so much that instead of being like a 90% damage, it should be like a 10% damage where you would otherwise splash. So, like, for a good example is when monsters hit you and you've got the deflect prayer up and you get hit for 1s, like it shows a damage splat, right? So they could do the same thing for you hitting a monster based on whatever their, affinity is. You could end up doing 10% of damage or 20% of damage or 5% of damage. But the splashing element for critical things like debilitate at certain times, I think it can be detrimental to enjoyment. So maybe a 10% instead, or like dependent upon monster affinity instead of 90%, because that's like never missing is kind of less interesting, at least to me.
Okay. Well, what do you guys think of hit?
メイクアイデアルがスカミピが
One second.
おみどこおみどこあみち
You guys want to talk about hit range? Because we've mainly been talking about
we talked about precise and equilibrium. I think it's fine. Ideal.
You think the current hit range is fine?
There's a lot of RNG. Like obviously, it's a very big range.
Would you guys make it any smaller and lower the average damage? Would you guys think?
Depends on the
hit
ability.
range right now is it 25 to 100 or 20 to 100? I always forget.
Like normally it's 20 to 100.
Okay. So, do you guys think it's fine, or do you guys would want to change, or?
Ideal, you can go first.
I think it's okay at the moment. Things like works like okay so far. Don't like particularly see like how they can change it without like completely like unbalancing everything though. So like things like autos having like such a lower minimum range compared to like it's like 0 standard to 150 or whatever. Thing that like works so that you like include precise equilibrium into your weapons as like really good perks, but things like bleeds have like a really weird hit range because it's like probability based, like when if you hit under a certain percentage. So it's really varied, and I think that works, but at the same time, it's not like perfect in any way. Things that I would like really like to see are ultimates. So right now they just like do some really bad like consistent hit, like 250 to 350, but I feel like those should be pushed way higher.
Yeah. Are you talking like Deadshot and like
Yeah, like
Omnipower?
Omnipower. Yeah. So the only times you would ever use those are if you have 100 Adren in Telos Green Beam or something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're useless.
Wouldn't you have to change the hit cap though for that to be effective?
Yeah.
Because even if you hit 10k every time, let's say your Omnipower hit 10k every time guaranteed, would it be used? No, right?
Definitely not.
Okay. Too
much Adren for
that
much reward.
Yeah. Look at what a Wild Magic does for
Exactly.
15%. So I don't know.
So the
I
hit
think
cap would need to be changed, or could be specifically changed for those abilities.
Right, or special attacks. Speaking to something you talked about last time,
I mean,
if there were longer cooldowns with more powerful abilities, you would have to change that hit cap.
Yeah, I mean, to briefly touch on it, I just think that every special attack should have a pretty long cooldown and be pretty significant, especially like a lot of the high level weapon ones. Like I'm saying, like 5-minute cooldown, but it's like insanely good. Like it's like
what are you talking?
Must use.
How good? You talking 50k damage over 6 seconds?
Just like give you like a crazy good buff. I don't put me on the spot. I haven't thought of anything. I don't want to like come out with something bad.
Alright.
I'm hyping it so much.
No, I'm just thinking thematically, right? So like for Staff of Sliske, because the special is so garbage, like what if it turned you into a mirror back for 30 seconds and you reflected 100% of all damage taken? That would be pretty good.
That sounds insane.
Yeah.
You want it insane. You want it insane.
30-second reflect.
Okay, maybe that's a bit too much. That's a bit too much.
I'm not saying you would negate the damage taken to you.
Yeah, that's still a lot, dude. Okay, well,
it is a lot. You want
maybe
it
not
good.
100%. Okay, but
all right.
What's
a good number for 30 seconds? 25%.
Yeah, no, that sounds even too much. But I guess that's the point, right?
Yeah, you're saying that it should be worth using every 5 minutes. And does it still cost 25% adrenaline? Does it cost 50% adrenaline?
I mean, I'm not here to think of balancing numbers, honestly. But but the point is that, you know, tier 90, especially tier 90 plus spec weapons should just be really good and have like a massive cooldown to the point that you can only use it like once a kill. Like that's what I think. Like gotcha. 5-minute cooldown.
I agree. I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah, I think Serengabo is a good example. Like, you use it with Ingenuity of Humans and it does really big damage, and it's really good to include it in your inventories if you can. And yeah, it's like, it changes up the strategies at the bosses, which I like about special attacks. It should be able to make PvMing different. Like, you should feel a difference when you're using it versus when you're not using it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we move on?
Yeah, let's keep going.
All right.
Actually, I have a question about like what you were talking about earlier with ultimates. So ultimates do like plus 25% damage or something like that. Accuracy, rather. So how would like you incorporate that into your design for changing splashing?
It'd just be exactly the same. Like, what do you mean?
That wouldn't make any sense. So ultimates increasing accuracy by 25% basically means that they're going to hit in the current structure, but that effect would be negated if your system exists where there is no
because
splashing.
bosses in the future with this idea would have like 70% accuracy, for example.
Aren't we just going back to where we were 3 or 4 years ago?
No, but there is no
right before Telos?
There is no splashing. It's just reduced damage. That's all it is. And
what would this special effect?
You wouldn't know the difference because it would be the difference would be like it having 70%, like for example, imagine a boss having a 70% accuracy and you just having you doing 70% potential damage, right? That would just make a lot of the accuracy boosts more effective. But instead of having that, if that wasn't a thing, right, the boss would just be 100% accuracy, right? And the boss would just have more health.
Yeah,
it would just be the same exact like thing. But
so no, to that end though, would the effect be better spent towards the range within the min-max for that ability? So like Omnipower always hits between 50 and 100% instead of 20, or whatever the percentage is.
Well,
so wouldn't it be better? Wouldn't it be more valuable?
I'm pretty in the middle. Probably leaning toward. I'm pretty much in the middle when it comes to hit range. I'm just mostly I'm mostly supporting removal of splashing.
Gotcha.
So hit range, I'm like kind of iffy on because again, like the pros are just like you are consistently rewarded for your your efforts and your rotation, whereas you lose the excitement of hitting something big, and you also lose the reactionary skill of like what to do next depending on your hits. Gotcha. But I just don't like slashing completely negating your damage with based on a certain chance.
I think it ties in a lot to like soft caps at bosses. Like it's pretty similar. And
do you guys
honestly, I'm not a fan of soft caps.
Do you guys think
I don't
just
like
completely removed?
I think so. Like, I get why they're there, but
it's really hard to balance.
Wouldn't melee just skyrocket?
Yeah.
In terms of so
it's super difficult if you were to have no soft caps and no hard caps. Like the hard cap changing obviously has a huge effect with Grimoire, but soft cap has its purpose as well. Like I really hate phased transitions that don't allow you to status the boss. Right? So like if you can't put vulns on, if you can't put bleeds on that start taking effect, for a small amount, I like soft caps more than I like phase transitions where there's like even temporary immunity. So that's, I guess, where soft caps are better. So you can at least put those effects on for the next phase of the boss.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I get why they're there from an objective point of view, but
but you don't like them. Yeah. All right, keep going, Omid.
All right, you guys want to move to the next topic?
I'm sure. I'm down.
I mean, if you have anything to add, just always feel free. This is
all right.
Anything can be said. Just not a couple of words. Official. Wait, no, that's the wrong one.
I like this topic.
Should best in slot, bound on equip, degradables be efficient to use?
Okay, so we're talking by bound on equip. Are you talking about Grimoire specifically? Because it's one of the only items I know that works like that. Or are you talking about
I
like when you
anything else? Oh,
yeah, the Hydric stuff.
The Hydric stuff. Yeah. So I think your question is two-pronged, right? Should best in slot degradables be efficient? ? And then should bind on equip have any influence on your previous answer? Right? Yeah. Because if you look at it, like Arma Book before Grimoire, like Arma Book, or like the Scrimshaws or whatever, should it be efficient? Should it be cost efficient? That depends if you can make, hundreds of like 100 mil an hour, like Ideal can, or if you're the average player that makes 5 mil an hour.
Are you the average player?
I wouldn't say I value my time at about 50 mil an hour.
God damn, boy.
Yeah. So it depends who you are. So short answer is I think that the best in slot consumables, like things that require charge, should never be efficient for the average player. There is no reason for the average player to be able to use a Grimoire 100% of the time. That decreases the motivation for people going for speed kills, people going for new content, trying to use like whatever they can to try to beat the new content for the first time, and like immense challenges, like if they ever come out with like an Inferno for RS3. I just think there's no reason why everything needs to be efficient to use. T92 armor doesn't need to be efficient to use everywhere. It should be cheaper, don't get me wrong, speaking to T92 specifically, but you don't need to use it everywhere. Do I think more things should be bind on equip, like Grimoire? Like you buy it and then you can't sell it? Yeah, I definitely do. Because it adds the element of being able to sell it when you get it, right? So people who do Solak all the time can get a bunch of Grimoires and sell everyone after the first, or whatever. But it also means that once an account consumes it, it's gone. So why do you think Praisal codices are still the price they are, right? If people could resell them, they would be nowhere near 520 mil or whatever they are.
You don't think so? I mean,
no, absolutely not. If you could take them off your account,
it would definitely go lower, but I don't.
Way lower.
I think the main reason it's such a high price is because that one item is best in slot for like 3 styles across the board.
I'm talking about Praisal codexes for the prayers.
Yeah.
So like, if you could, first of all, every player would only need to buy one. Because you could unset it and then change the style.
Oh, okay. I didn't
or
think
if there were
that.
dedicated styles, they'd be a lot cheaper because you know what I mean.
So I guess I didn't.
I really like Praisals. I really like Grimoire. T92 armor should be cheaper to use, but it doesn't need to be efficient for your average person training Slayer, right? It doesn't need to be efficient for somebody who's doing God Wars.
I don't think you need to use the word average person. I think like things like Grimoire are just not efficient for anyone to use.
Are you saying you don't like custom fit trim masterwork?
Trim masterwork is borderline overpowered, and because it degrades so slowly.
But you guys think trim masterwork armor is overpowered?
I think it's the closest thing to overpowered released recently. Ideal.
I don't think so. I think it's a good balance. So.
I mean,
you still have to use it properly to if you want a reprisal, for example, Everago, you just have to think strategically about unequipping it or using less than 3 pieces. But
outside of AOD, is it really good anywhere? I don't think. I mean,
Trim Masterwork has T92 boots. Look at how big the increase was.
The boots, sure, because I mean, you just buy the Masterwork boots and you're set.
So the thing about Masterwork is we're looking at it, we're talking about high level bossing, right? We're
talking about boots as well.
Yeah, right, but what I'm saying is we're ignoring what most people use Trim Masterwork for, which is their daily Reapers and Slayer.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that it's you kind of get locked in with your investment with Trim Masterwork. A lot of people will buy Trim Masterwork and feel inclined to only slay or only do elite dungeons, which might not be the right thing.
But it still degrades at half speed elsewhere once you custom fit it.
Even so, I don't think it's that good. Compared to compared to normal normal Masterwork armor, for example. I'm pretty sure normal Masterwork armor is super cheap, cheaper than Malevolent. Wait. I
don't know if it's that cheap. Is it? Well, Malevolent you break down to make the.
How much is Malevolent anyways nowadays? I'm saying
it's still expensive. It's
I'm
5 mil for a helm.
I'm saying the T90 variants are. I just don't think Trim Masterwork armor is OP. I don't like when people call it OP because I don't think it is. It's really good It's really. It's
not necessarily overpowered, but it's very good. Let's put it that way.
I also think it spoils people in taking certain damages that they shouldn't.
And you shouldn't live through this.
Once they use Mage in range and they take that hit, they're like, "Oh fuck, I died."
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You add the set effect to the fact that it degrades at half the speed outside of Elite Dungeon, Slayer, and Reaper. Doesn't degrade at all in Elite Dungeons, Slayer, and Reaper tasks. And it, takes damage as a dot. It is really, really good compared to the other T92 armor sets.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree with that. Yeah. I'm just I don't think comparing that with other T92s is the right thing to do. I think you should compare it to other melee armors.
And it shits on every other melee armor.
I don't think it does. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm mainly looking at outside of where it doesn't degrade, right? That's what I'm looking at primarily. And outside of where it doesn't degrade, I think its main use would be AOD, right? Assuming you're not on on task. But I remember doing the math on a week after release, and normal Masterwork armor was like 8 times cheaper to use.
Yeah.
And you don't need trim Masterwork armor in a lot of places. And to a certain extent, I think it spoils you to the point, like I said, it just makes you be more lazy with mechanics and take damage than you shouldn't, and making you less adaptable to other styles.
But isn't that the definition of overpowered? Being able to carry a player that normally wouldn't have the skill, right? By taking those big hits as
based on the
dots
price,
to
I
live.
don't think so. That's
It's not that expensive though. For you or
you look
or
at
anybody who's in the higher level
percentage wise,
community.
it is much more expensive than Masterwork armor. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
That's what holds it back from being overpowered. I think a key factor to something being overpowered is its availability, right?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Like if seismic, if Staff Escape was
That's
1
okay.
GP, that shit would be fucking overpowered, right? Like, you
You're
know,
right.
like
You're right.
using an extreme example.
I just still see it as extremely cheap. Even trimmed is extremely cheap. And I'm not saying that because I, have a lot of GP. I'm saying that because the average high level person can consistently use trimmed masterwork everywhere.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't disagree with that.
It's
Yeah,
really, really good.
True, but to go back to, I just don't think it's efficient for them to use that. It's like insanely inefficient to use it in places that it doesn't degrade.
Yeah.
And
It just highlights the disparity
does
though
degrade,
between
yeah.
that armor and others, like the T92 Elite armor.
Yeah, the other tier 92 armors, obviously. I don't know why they haven't done something with them, honestly.
Which are more expensive, by the way, especially Sirenic.
Way more.
I mean,
so trim masterwork is like cheap. It's got boots and gloves. Not that the gloves really matter.
I mean, naturally,
it's got an extra effect.
Naturally,
Degrades at half
Tectonic
the
will
speed.
be much more expensive just because of Tectonic. That's dictated by tectonic energies, right? So
Yeah.
So that can't be helped. But regardless of price, I think it just should at least compete with the effectiveness of the trim masterwork. Like I
So
think
ideal. How do you feel, since we've been doing most of the talking? How do you feel about like untradables in general and how it relates to like best in slot consumables?
So in terms of like trim masterwork itself, I don't think it's like that big a deal because it's not that much better than like Malevolent. Just like a few damage points. So like people use it because best in slot and it's better damage, of course. But I don't think anyone really uses it for the effect. Definitely more so for the damage.
I wonder if average players do or not. I wonder if they buy it for the effect.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I would say most people buy it because, as Ideal said, there's a premium, right? It's just
I think
the best,
most people buy it because everyone called it overpowered. That's what I
because
think.
they heard it on Omid's podcast. No, I don't know.
Rs Guy stream.
Whoa!
I mean, I'm not knocking Rs Guy or anything. I'm just saying, like, he definitely like is the role model for most of the Rs community. So if he uses it and like hypes it up, then it's definitely going to be used by the community.
Yeah, I disagree.
Which isn't a bad thing. I'm not like flaming or anything.
No, I mean I agree. I publicly disagreed with him calling trim masterwork armor OP. But yeah. And I don't think SGB is OP either.
SGB is definitely too nuanced to be overpowered, I think.
People lose their minds over SGB. They're like, it's insane, and all they see is the spec and nothing else. I'm just like,
Omid, when they do their 8 Araxar kills a day,
you're buying,
and they use it on Araxia.
You're
at 50K,
spending 1 bill on a
OP.
spec that works on a few. That's only really good on a few bosses, and you can use it like once or twice. It's like that's not OP. Oh no.
Yeah, that's why I think it's a good balance to SGB. Like, it's really good where it works, but like you're limited if you're using mage or melee or mage, and you need to like an ingenuity or like armor switch. So it's like a good balance.
But moreover, like kind of more holistically, how do you feel about untradables being best in slot, or untradable or consumables that are best in slot being untradable? Like if the best food in the game were completely untradable, or the best potions in the game, which are untradable, if that kind of practice was adopted elsewhere in the game, Like, do you think more untradable is good for high level PvM, or do you think more untradable is bad?
I think the problem is like preparation time. Nobody really likes making the overloads ever, so that's what's like the question here. I think it's like a good in terms of health for the game, but in terms of the players that are playing it, nobody like actually likes sitting there making extreme potions and overloads when they're trying to PvM.
Speak
What
for
about things
yourself.
from like quests? Yeah, I was gonna say I wasn't gonna
No,
say.
I
He
think-
said I don't know anybody. I like prepare.
I think
like doing
part of RuneScape. I think I like that part is like skilling to make. I personally like. You guys know how I am. I fucking love invention, herb lore, and prayer. I think them giving significant untradeable benefits to both skilling and PvM is just very healthy, and I think it should be adopted across like a lot more skills. So when you start playing the game, you have a choice. Depending on your playstyle, you go, okay, I want to train Herblore until I get this unlockable. Like, I think that having that choice and having to make that choice is fun and progressing and getting something that's like can't be bought, for example. Like, I think, do you guys think that, I think fire making bonfire effect is too insignificant, for example. I think it should, it doesn't
if you
feel
use a preset,
very...
it's still pretty good. It's like 1600 health, isn't it? That's pretty good. With atrocious gloves, shield.
Well, I mean,
Acto.
as power creep grows, I think they could like up that personally. Like, it's just not.
I mean-
it's not exciting, right? It's not like you hitting overloads compared to you hitting the bonfire
Yeah,
boosting.
but what do you want to do? What do you want to do other than do more damage, right? Like, what other effect do you want from fire
They
making
could have
for
made
PvM?
incense untradeable.
Yeah, they could
Like
have.
the end
Yeah,
result of incense.
Yeah. But like we're completely omitting one part of the untradeable hierarchy, which is quest items, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of items come from quests. A lot of not a lot of best in slot items, but a significant amount of best in slot items, or that have significant effects, come from quests. Your enhanced Excaliburs, your Asylum Surgeon rings. Like, there's a lot of things that come from quests that you obviously can't trade. So, do you think that's good for the game? I
This one's
personally love it.
Yeah.
I would rather have more of that stuff that gets you invested in the storyline of the game and playing other stuff. But lately, Jagex, with the Comcape direction specifically, wants people to play the way they want to play. So I see more things getting tradable in the future, which I completely disagree with. I would want more and more stuff to be untradeable for best in slot. Like, even if it's just a small increase, like Rocktail Soups or something when they came out, if those are untradeable, fine. Like, if you're willing to do the additional prep to have something that you can never sell, you should be able to get best in slot through that. Whether Ideal likes to, take the time out of his PvM to do it.
I don't know how I feel about quests, because it's easier to justify like getting 99 herb lore, like 99 in skill and getting rewarded with something, and it's a lot more different with quests, I feel.
Okay.
So you can give your opinion, Ideal. I don't really, I'm a bit conflicted on quests giving like significant untradeable benefits personally.
So I think because they're in the game right now, people will do them for PvM, but there's a lot of people who play RuneScape just for PvM and don't really like the skilling aspect of it. Like, it doesn't dominate their playstyle. And if you make everything untradeable, like overloads, then that is going to dominate a lot of their playtime, which they wouldn't like actually enjoy. So I'm like more in favor of earning PvM things through PvM. Like, as Zach said, skilling rewards should be locked behind skilling, and PvM rewards should be locked behind PvM.
You think that?
And
so
yeah.
So you don't like herb lore and invention and prayer? Or prayer is you train it through like a skill, essentially no PvM. So do you not like those things?
I mean, while I was playing, I was like a really casual skiller, so I unlocked those while
still a casual
before
skiller.
I was a PvMer. But after I actually started PvMing, I didn't like skilling at all. When I wanted to PvM, I didn't like it skilling for PvM. Skilling for the sake of skilling, like I wanted to train prayer because I liked the cape and wanted to skill, but not because I wanted to PvM.
So you things like the comp cape rework where they're trying to not force content on people who want to, work on other things. You are in favor of that type of game development.
I'm in favor of it, but not how they did it.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
feel like it should be a lot better than just Reaper, but
the
yeah.
way
We're not
that
getting
they-
into the comp cape. We're not getting into the comp cape. But looking at this, like the logic behind it, right? I see. I'm completely on the other side of the fence. Like I want people who are doing the highest level of PvM to experience every part of the game, like everything that can be done. I want an overload for every single skill. Like they came out with the alloy armor spikes recently, which are still kind of crappy, right? But at least it's something.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that significant.
But what I'm saying is that's a PvM reward for smithing, right? So, and it's something you can't get elsewhere. So trying to encapsulate that mentality of having to be a well-rounded adventurer to be a good PvMer, I'm more towards that side than PvM comes from PvM, skilling comes from skilling. I'm fine when skilling rewards come from PvM because that's how it's always worked with drop tables. And PvM rewards come from skilling. I think it is healthy for there to be some mix between the two.
Yeah, I generally agree. I think that I think the best rewards should come from the respective skilling and PvM. Like the best PvM rewards should come from PvM. The best skilling rewards should come from skilling. But they should like benefit each other in my opinion. I just like an element I loved was like when I started playing is like making decisions like do I go for prayer, do I go for herblore? But that was like the only choice. It's like prayer or herblore. That was like literally it, right? But I like there to be more for you to have to make choices. Like I don't like a game being just very linear. I like there being like I don't know how to word it exactly.
On the flip side, though, RuneScape is about never limiting yourself, right? You can always you're not a mage, and then you can never be a warrior or a ranger. Like so much of RuneScape is about being able to do everything. That linear, the only way that works is if you can do everything, So I don't know if I necessarily feel that long-term ramifications of your account choices are a good thing necessarily, but yeah. What about just like untradeable stuff in general? Like to my example of like food, like if the best food in the game is untradeable, if the best, even if it comes from just skilling, that affects PvM. If there's something that heals 3,800 health, and you can only get it by fishing this untradeable fish, farming this untradeable plant, combining them and making, a T99 Umli wrap or something. I don't know.
I'll be back in like a few minutes or
Okay.
like a minute.
Okay.
All right. Omid, what do you think about that? Like untradeable stuff being best in slot?
The only hard part of that is do you think that the highest tier weapons and armor should be untradeable until the next tier is released? For example,
I think they should be bind on equip, not untradeable. I think they should be bind on equip.
Okay. Well,
I get your logic, but
I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm just like pitching it and just seeing what you think.
Well, say why. Say why you think that.
Why I think. Well, I don't know if it's right or wrong, so I don't know. What do you mean?
What might be the logic? Because I extrapolated
don't know,
why you
really.
No, the logic is that the people who deserve the currently best in slot are the people who do the content. So like T92s from Telos, if they were untradeable and you saw a Staff of Sliske, that person earned their Staff of Sliske. Yeah. And then when the T95s or T99s come out, the T92s are then tradable and the T95s are the untradeable.
It's kind of
I kind of like that idea.
You could
but I prefer BOE.
I think the best example would be Actor. Like what if the next tier of Actor, the tank armor is released? And I'm not saying how desirable it will be or how impactful it will be, but like generally speaking, right? Because Actor is just a lot more common than the other drops, other PvM drops. So the thing about that is that the untradeable aspect is that it's too RNG based on the rolls, whereas like Acto is not. So that's the only way I can
Gotcha.
see it happening that way. Like for example,
Yeah.
like tier 95 tank armor is released and active becomes tradable. Like, I don't think that would be necessarily a bad thing.
No, I don't think it would be bad either. Again, I would prefer bind on equip though to just completely tradable. Bind on equip is so good because it keeps the content active because players attach it to they can't resell it. Not being able to resell something keeps an item desirable.
I don't necessarily see anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
at the same time, it's very untraditional of RuneScape.
It is like Grimoire is like the real first BOE item that I can think of for high level PvM. But I really like how Grimoire works.
I mean, Trim Masterwork
you buy a
is
token.
essentially the same. Oh, custom fitted Trim Masterwork.
That's true. That's true. Custom fit Trim Masterwork. Yeah. All right. And you know my opinion about this as somebody with like almost 250 superior element scrimshaws. I really like other content contributing to PvM.
Yeah.
So like this,
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna get too far ahead of ourselves if we start talking about like the base camp and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I just think the best of the best should come from either PvM gear and weapons and benefits the best stuff should come from PvM, right? Like the weapons and armors and such. But I think they should benefit each other, like to a certain extent. How does the PvM benefit skilling in an untradeable sense? Does it?
How does PvM benefit skilling in an untradeable sense? I'd have to think more about that to see how currently it does, because I don't really think it does. An example would be like if Araxor dropped some sort of essence that were untradeable that you could skill that gave a ton of XP. Not a lot of that stuff exists. No.
I was just thinking of like ingredients or something from PvM.
Yeah, there's very few that are untradeable.
But
growth potion from Mole was one of the yeah.
That is true, but who does trees these days?
So one thing I did notice, not to get too far off course, but one thing I did notice is a lot of people are asking questions in chat, and the way the process goes for Q&A is that Omid is taking subscriber questions, and we're going to answer those in a separate segment following this discussion. So, which we're nearing the end actually. We only have a couple more PvM topics, followed by land out of time speculation. Ideal, you're back.
Hello, sorry about that.
That's okay. Did you get like a pizza delivered or something?
No. Had to take a call.
That's okay. All right, so let's keep going.
Let's move to the next topic. We're stalling really hard. We were talking about
I was going to say we were talking in circles.
We were talking about your bid
just
for like
waiting
30 seconds because we had nothing to talk about. Anyways, next topic: PvM competitions and seasonals.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead then.
So I feel like a couple of years ago, PvM was so much fun because of how competitive people were with each other. So like people were constantly going for records on the record sheet. Like you had the AOD people like grinding for like a sub 3, you know, the first sub 3 EU, first sub 3 NA, 252 NA. It was such a meme.
NA EU? No, you didn't.
Yeah, it was actually that much of a meme, you know, and it was fun.
So I assume NA was always behind on EU, right? That's the standard. NA
no comment.
So I will say one thing that is kind of more of a top level look at this. Boss kill high scores win. So like not only number, not number, speed, like official high scores for fastest boss kills. Like you wouldn't need to track it on an extra site. Like if Jagex tracked it internally and that were persisting high scores, you wouldn't need necessarily a seasonal.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything that would go wrong with it other than like bugs happening. And then
they'd have to reset it. They'd have to reset something every other month.
Surely they wouldn't reset, but like they just roll them back.
Or roll back, yeah. Also,
I just don't know how competent Jags are, but they could like grandfather a lot of the records depending on like meta
Yeah.
changes as well. Like if a
Yeah.
meta changes, like someone's record will stay based on that meta. But then
That's possible. That gets really
yeah,
complicated.
yeah, I just don't know if they're competent enough to actually make those decisions. But one thing when you suggested this topic idea was like, so Uku's Telos tournament was so fucking big and so successful and so fucking hype, right? Like it was really successful. I think it was like one of the biggest things in the RS3 directory. Why have JX not done something like that themselves?
Effort, like it's obviously I've said this a lot of times, but it's obvious they don't really care about the high level community, like with the
But
really
they see
big
how much
priority,
like
you know.
attention that brings. They see how like
Yeah.
how
Like,
popular it is. Sure.
Like some of the most popular streams are like couchy with no cam. Like that should just show you how much people really do want to see this really, really skillful PVM. And like for competitions, it is hype. Like depending on how long it is, you get that build up, you get, you know, your favorite people. Like the esports scene is huge right now. People want to you know, support the people that they watch all the time. They want to see how they do against no-namers. Like, it's just, I think it would be a great idea for Jagex to sponsor this, but to Ideal's point, it would be effort. So it's like, how much do they care
But like
about?
they did Dimensional
high-level
Dam,
PVM?
which was an
Yeah.
absolute fucking disaster.
Oh, that was garbage.
And that was
That
the
was
failure
garbage.
because they just don't understand the player base well enough and
Oh,
how
yeah.
what
Oh,
people care about and how
chaos.
people play the game. Like I don't know. I just think that Jay should take like inspiration from the Telos tournament and just make it
100%.
100 times bigger. Like give it a prize pool, give it like you fly them over to Jax and like I don't know what kind of reward can Jax give.
Competition is just like so healthy overall.
Life-size Telos
Yeah.
statue.
Ooh,
Inflatable. They got a 3D printer at
I'm just
Jagex.
thinking of
They can
something
make a trophy.
crazy. I'm thinking, okay, this is how crazy I'm thinking.
One bond.
no.
That was funny.
6 dies that are exclusive to that person, to the winner. Like their
That would be
own
pretty
fucking
cool.
die. Like
Like
no
a
one
Telos,
else
like an
can have
anima
it.
die?
Huh?
Like an anima die?
like I don't know what color or what it is, but like imagine that, dude. That shit. You see that guy rolling in with like fucking fluorescent
That would be
green
pretty sick.
malevolent,
Yeah.
and you just like shit your
That
pants.
would
You're like,
be
oh my
pretty
fucking
sick.
god, that's the Telos guy.
That
And like
would be
the thing is, like
awesome.
the great thing about the Telos tournament was like it showed off a lot of PVMers that weren't known at all, right? Like, I mean, Gilga is, I would assume most people don't know who Gilga is, right? But like
Yeah.
he's really fucking good at Telos, and he eventually won the tournament, and that just gave him a lot of what's the word?
Notoriety.
Exposure.
Yeah, exposure. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's also a good thing. I don't know. I just think Jay should take this and make it the biggest event that they've ever done. Somehow.
100%.
Yeah. But to
I think it's worth
seasonals
effort.
and stuff, they just need to do more. They need Ideal's totally right. Is they don't really pay that much attention to the high level PVM community.
It's crazy because I feel like
So-
a lot of times they're just like focused on numbers, and
Yeah.
surely they should have noticed that Uku's streams was getting like his streams were getting like 200, 300 views.
Yeah,
that's
they were
like
so
a lot.
big.
Especially considering like how many views he normally gets. You know, people
Yeah.
were there for the, not to flame him, but like it's to show that like how many people were there for the Telos tournament and the hype.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
I just,
Uku retired streaming for so long, and then came back with that and
yeah,
the bang, man.
dude, I love Uku.
Yeah.
Like Uku putting in, like coming up with that idea and putting in the amount of effort into that tournament, dude, fucking clappers in chat for Uku.
Yep.
We all love Uku. Alright?
Hyper clappers.
Hyper clappers, right? No fucking claps. Hyper clappers. Honestly, that I admire that man. I love him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So absolutely seasonals, but I think there should just be more consistent support. And they did say they were going to do like a boss speed high scores.
Yeah, for
like
years
ago.
now.
Yeah, that was
Like,
like 5. That
2
was like
years
10
ago,
years ago.
at
some
least.
shit.
It was a long time ago. So the fact that they haven't come out with it is there could be a couple things. They're afraid it will just be abused and they'll have to do too much work to keep it, updated, or they just don't want to put in the initial investment. Well, not new. Yeah, when people see 1 tick kills of every God Wars 1 boss, they're going to be a little put off trying to go for that. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Everybody needs something to strive for. I would definitely
I think we all
that.
agree on that. It's just like, I feel like Jakes are focused
it's gotta
on
happen.
making the early game better and filling in content.
Yeah, like you can't do PvM on mobile really. Like, so they're not gonna focus on it.
Dude, imagine if they make the next boss
mobile friendly.
We say that as a joke and we're laughing.
I was gonna say,
it's like nervous laughter. It's like,
I was laughing a little bit and then I'm like, oh, that could happen.
Yeah, I think we all agree that reworking content and adding new player-friendly stuff shouldn't be prioritized over adding end-game stuff and quality of life, right?
After they get mobile out, for iOS and Android uncapped, I think they should spend a lot of time optimizing the engine, working on high-level PvM, and just, kind of looking more at content that they've, I'm not going to say abandoned, but not really given enough attention to for the last couple of years. And the prime example is probably high-level PvM. Like we keep playing, right? Like, not that I'm a particularly good PvMer, but people keep playing despite the amount of time and effort put into it, not because of it, right? Solak is really the only thing in the last year that's had a huge impact, and Elite Dungeons as well. So Elite Dungeon races would be pretty sick. Like, there's so much opportunity for that kind of stuff, and it's like just underutilized.
Yeah. So
like what people are saying in chat, bring back ModPie. Like, his PvM quality of life updates were so well received.
Yeah, I remember.
They just completely ignored it.
Yeah, so a lot of the PvM quality of life that ModPie did was on his lunch break. It's not actually something he had to do, which is insane.
Which is crazy.
Also, they moved ModPie was working on Hostilius, which was meant to be the next step of Telos. And I would say he has the potential to make like a better Telos. So that shit to PvMers was just like a wet fucking dream, right? But then he was moved to mobile, and he's like, and especially considering that Hostilius was his passion project, like that's what he really enjoyed doing. And as we all know, if you put someone on something that they're passionate about, generally they'll do a better job. But he was put on mobile, and I think he's still on mobile, unfortunately.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to take mobile being released to start getting progress on these ancillary goals.
Yeah, and that's just like down to management. It's not his choice, and I feel like that's probably why Mod Chris left in the first place. Was because of like management decisions. Like, they moved his girlfriend onto a project that she didn't want to be on.
I don't know how much we can speculate about Jagex's internal management.
Well, all right. Well, should we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing about seasonals versus like the Telos tournament. I feel like seasonals was like not good because it was dominated by few people, namely Couchy. But everyone stopped trying,
Can you confirm
people were
that
content with top 100 for silver?
Can you confirm that King Zoro paid Couchy so he doesn't take one of the next records?
No comment.
So how would you combat that ideal?
So the Telos tournament, having 1v1 in groups and stuff like that, where people I feel like they have a chance, Like, Couchy was eliminated in the second round of the Telos tournament. Like, within the first few minutes of his group going. Same with Artiferns, who other people thought was a favorite to win the contest.
What? Who? Name me one person who thought Artiferns was gonna win. One person. Who?
Ryan Lexa.
Wait. Ryan was probably trolling, dude. What the fuck?
No, he was so serious, dude. Because he's like,
I've never
one
heard
inventory,
Ryan be
dude.
serious.
Artiference is the best. No food, high enrage, Telos are in the game. There's no way he's losing. And honestly, it was so tragic how he died, man. So I would have agreed with Ryan, unironically, but just got lucky, you know.
Dude, that Telos server was so Pepego because so many people on the hour. If you guys don't know, there was a part of the tournament. Was it the brackets? Basically, you had an hour to do like Telos kills, and all the enrage kills would just add up. But if you die, you get knocked out. And so many people tried going for like high enrages from the early, like on the early on in the hour, and they just die and they just get knocked out with 0% enrage killed. And I'm just sitting there like, the fuck is this? Like, why is everyone doing really hard shit early on? Like I think like 6 people got knocked out on their first kill. Like they got 0 kills, and it's just like, what? These are meant to be good PvMers. They might have the mechanics, but they have no fucking brain apparently.
Is if you put it on like a 2-week, like if you have 2 weeks to try to get the fastest kill, obviously one person who has optimized like the prisms and like battle axe into G, stall.
Are you going to say G more? Don't get use physics excited.
Oh no!
Don't say G more.
What I'm saying is, if they do that, like a couple people are going to absolutely dominate. So Ideal's completely right. Is you want more of like a live tournament or like a round robin or like a single elimination or something like that. I think that would be hugely popular, especially if you had rewards.
Did you watch the tournament? Because it was.
I watched some. I was at work.
It was really fun. Like those handicaps and stuff, and it was like the really. What was the really fun handicap to watch? Was it the no beam? What was it? No beam? No. The one that Gilga did and like Skyember did, I think. Was it no
beams?
That was really interesting to see how they did it, because like everyone did it different. Dude, I remember when Artiferns was it Artiferns who was involved in that as well, and he was like,
no, definitely not.
Okay,
was he knocked down the second round?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I just really enjoyed watching the handicaps. Is what made it fun. I think taking that tournament and making it more fun than competitive was a good thing, because you could make it like 100% competitive and just have
they could even sanction their own. They could even sanction their own event, like in a separate arena where they can add actual handicaps, like a la Dominion Tower.
Yeah.
And then just have people do that, and they could do it like once a month. They just have a 64-person tournament. That would be insane. I would watch that every month.
Do you guys remember the Jularina tournaments?
I do. That's what made me think of the 64-person.
I used to do that shit like back in the day. That was really fun. But yeah.
Anyways. All right, let's keep. We're all in agreement. This is no fun. We gotta argue about something.
Wait. Oh, okay. So expanding on existing content or new experiences. So basically, God Wars 2 is like an expansion to the same style as God Wars 1. AOD is this expansion of Nex, but Telos and Araxor are completely unique experiences. Which do you guys prefer? Why? And yeah, who wants to go first? Like, for example, would you rather have like, as an it's a very subjective discussion, but like, would you rather do you like the idea of Raids 2, or do you like the idea of like Hostilius?
Honestly, I don't have a strong preference for either, as long as like they're done properly. Like, I feel Next AOD was, even though it's like Next and like the mechanics are familiar, they're not actually the same, so it still feels like a new boss. So
but there's elements from it, like, for example, like hard mode Virago versus Virago, right? Like, I mean, I guess that's hard modes are generally a lot more similar. But I
like AOD isn't Next hard mode. They could still come out with a hard mode next.
The thing is, like, let's say you had, like, would you guys realistically, based on JX, right? Would you say I'd like to have an expansion on Telos, like have not a hard mode, but to the extent of AOD, where it's like completely on a different level, right? or would you guys rather bank on a new boss?
I know it's just your
Same
example,
developers, so
but
it's fair,
I
but,
think
like-
Telos. I don't think Telos is a good example because anything
Really?
with like the enraged mechanic where you can make it as difficult basically as you want, it is not ripe for expansion. I would look at it as something like Raids 1 to Raids 2 versus Hostilius. So like personally, I would rather have Hostilius. However, the reason is because every time you see like raids pulled, it never pulls really well. And the reason is because you're going to get the people who love raids hyped, but that is such a small subset of the population that everybody who's already made up their minds about raids is going to just tune out when that update comes. When nobody knows what to expect, the hype is so much bigger. So I would probably err on the side of a completely new experience. Just because it's like the community investigating like the tactics and like the rewards not necessarily being known, stuff like that. Like the mechanics, you having no idea. I would rather go completely new.
The only time that I wouldn't go completely new is when I know that the reason I said Telos is because if it's an expansion on Telos, it's very unlikely going to be bad, right? It's probably going to be well received just because they're working off that as a base model. But whereas if they go a new piece of content, let's say you ask for a new piece of content,
it could be a Solak V2.
You get like elite dungeons, people might be unhappy with it, for example. You know, like
I think elite dungeons were a great change in direction though. They are different. So
look,
I think that's an example of something that worked.
But they're not something that like it's not something that's really hard, It's fun to like optimize and min max, right? There's so much you can do in elite dungeons to min max, but it's not very hard. Like
it wasn't meant to be though.
To just do it.
It wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the problem, right? Like
people actually complain that it's harder than it was supposed to. It was supposed to be mid level.
Really?
So I mean I don't necessarily agree. I didn't think any of them are particularly difficult at all. However, you could always come out with it. One of the main points of elite dungeons is that they were easily reproducible and scalable, right? You can make more elite dungeons. They can make them as hard as they want. Whether they do it or not is another story. But you want to talk about like expansions or like hard modes. Elite dungeon hard modes could be made incredibly difficult.
Well,
like every other game has heroic and legendary raids. Why not do the same thing for elite dungeons?
I think that elite dungeons was done pretty it's not a good format. I think they should have taken inspiration from old school RS raids and done the same thing where it's just like boss.
See, I don't know if I agree.
Boss trash. Oh,
I don't know if I agree because
really,
I've played other MMOs and a lot of the thing is but like you look at the environment, right? You look at progressing through mini bosses and trash mobs and stuff like that. RuneScape just never had something that was similar to the archetype of a MMO raid, and now they do with the 3 elite dungeons. I mean, an
MMO raid is very different. MMO raid is more like Mazcab raids than it is elite dungeons. An MMO raid.
The only thing between Durzag and Yakamaru is a bunch of jellyfish.
The general definition of an MMO raid is there's trash mobs that teach you about the boss fight that's upcoming. Okay. And then you get the boss. Then again, you get the trash mobs that teach you, which they do, right? You get charges, you get Kormis, which is a whole dog that basically briefly teaches you. And between Yakamaru, there's the jellyfish.
They don't have to teach you. Huh? They could just be thematically relevant.
That's the general foundation of a raid in every MMO.
Sorta. Look at like Maradon and a bunch of World of Warcraft. I'm talking mostly World of Warcraft.
Yeah, well, I mean, dungeons are very much like dungeons and MMOs are very much like elite dungeons, but raids are like Mazcab.
Fair. I'm mixing the terminology. They are different.
Sorry.
Ideal. What are your thoughts?
So I think with RuneScape, when most people want a boss, they just want to do an hour straight of bossing, like just stuff that they're used to from the aura system. And the trash mob equivalent of like in between bosses of other MMOs is similar to like the prep you do outside of PvM. At least that's how I feel. So
Gotcha.
that's why I don't find elite dungeons like very intriguing. You know, I hate having to like clear the trash mobs in between the bosses. So
Especially in a
Gotcha.
trio, it's like the problem I have in a trio is that what you do on the trash mobs are just less impactful than what you do in solos. Like there's no way
Yeah.
you're gonna be able to coordinate all your bleeds and all your abilities between 3 people, especially based on the situational hit, your hits. It's like it's
Yeah.
not realistic, and what you do is just less impactful. Like what if you fuck up, you just lose like a second or two. If you fuck up in a solo, you lose like 10 seconds. So I personally prefer as in a trio elite dungeons as well. You like skip a lot of boss mechanics. I really don't like trio elite dungeons. I mean,
Yeah, solo is much better.
solo is much more fun. Solo to me is fun. It's just doesn't feel like I'm in danger ever, and it doesn't feel very rewarding or exciting to complete.
So Couchy goddamn.
We don't.
Ideal
Uh-oh.
had a good segue into our next discussion, and it may not be immediately apparent, but we're talking about like structuring PvM experiences around auras. So like Ideal said he doesn't really enjoy necessarily doing trash mob bobs, etc., where you're used to just doing an instance, right? You're doing an hour instance with an hour aura, with an hour familiar, and everything makes sense and it's familiar. So we do have kind of a I don't want to say a kink in that, but something to discuss with Monday's update. Omid, do you want to lead us into that?
Are you talking about the totems reducing aura charge?
I am, but I'm just saying, lead us into the next topic.
Okay, I'll lead you into the bedroom. All right, so we're going to next topic. It's going to be land out of time, and straight away we're going to go into the potential impact that the totems will have or can have on PvM, which is you can build up to 3 totems, and apparently they stack, and in each of them is a 15% reduction in aura cooldowns, up to 45%. Now, I personally don't think that's gonna really change how people play. I think people who are resetting right now are gonna still reset. I doubt they're gonna wait like 3 hours would it be? Like just under 3 hours?
45%. So 45% reduction, not including the hour you use it. It would be under 2 hours, I think.
Wait, isn't Minai so I reset all the time, but aren't Zerkoras 5 hours?
Are they 5?
Right now they're 5.
Yeah, okay.
So it's 5 after
so just
they
be under
end,
3 hours.
right?
Yeah.
So it'd be just under 3.
Well, technically 6 from when they start, or like 5:30 if you don't extend.
So I don't think.
So it depends if the totems count the CD, which I think the totems would work after it ends. I think they would work after it ends.
Obviously, they're not gonna work so I don't think that's gonna impact how you play.
So there was there was a comment in chat that is totally accurate, and it's what I said before. You'll be able to rotate between Maniacal, Zerk, and Reckless, and not have to use any resources.
That actually sounds kind of fun.
I think that's huge. I think that is huge.
Not a lot of people will utilize that. I think not a lot. I don't think many people would like rotating.
You can mage
fun.
ED1, range ED2, and then
I'm
mostly
like focusing on AOD right now when I'm thinking about this, and I just don't think most people would want to do that just because it wouldn't be efficient, just because they have their preferred style and their most comfortable style. And you'd have like 3 different presets specifically for AOD as well. I just don't think that would happen basically at AOD. What do you think, Ideal? What do you think about this?
No, it just reminds me, people used to do that back in the day where they would like rotate 3 styles if they could do the base rolls. It's because
I think it could happen in like higher level teams, but just most teams no. Like did you guys do that?
No, like it's definitely a lot more people like if they want to entangle or free mage, they'll stay entangling and free maging, resetting. And yeah, people just stick to their styles. But I feel like this update would be really good for Iron Man because like the lower cooldown, and they don't like want to waste all the reaper points. So
Yeah, that's true. And it also remains to be seen. Obviously, all this is subject to balancing. It could come out and they
100%.
could have changed their mind and they don't stack. But we're kind of focusing on one individual element of Land Out of Time, which is the base camp. So the base camp, and more specifically the totems, are a player-owned ports-like, I don't want to call it a mini game, but an element of the game where it progresses even if you're not logged in. How do you guys feel, first of all, about the player-owned port style, where it takes you like several months to get anything done, and also locking incredibly powerful rewards, which the other totem we know about is reducing all clue scrolls by one step?
I think they're good. I don't think they're powerful. Subjective wording, but like I don't think they're like that good. I think they're good, obviously. You don't
think like Superior Scrimshaw of the Elements, Superior Scrimshaw, Vampirism, and all those are
wait, are you talking about ports, or are you talking about
I'm talking about that style.
Oh,
I'm talking about that style. So
well,
where you have several months to get this really good reward, and if you don't start this thing that takes several months, you're going to be behind everybody else.
The thing with Scrimshaws was that it was like the first addition to the... Was it the first addition to the pocket slot? I actually don't know.
Holy Wrench.
Yeah, Holy Wrench, that's right.
Wait, could
you right when it came out. Right
when
it came out.
I don't remember. Anyways, it was just like, that was just an added bonus, right? That wasn't like replacing anything. That was just like straight away something that just added to the damage boost that you were getting. So whereas this is like potentially replacing, right? There's no new slot coming out. There's no new...
Right.
So I kind of worded that badly, but you get the gist of what I was trying to say. Is
which one are you saying is more powerful? The one that increases the slot, or the brand new effects that are coming from Basecamp?
I was saying that the impact that ports had with scrims was because it was a new
slot.
It was essentially a new slot, right.
Ideal with the logic before about PVM rewards coming from PVM. Imagine some of these totems are kind of like the player-owned farms perk that gives you increased damage against a Raxor, right? Like that is definitely a possibility that some of these will be PVM focused. Do you like that? Do you like having like this daily that you have to do for 6 months to get a PVM perk?
Not at all. I hated ports for the longest. Like on my Iron Man, my ports is still a disaster. Like first region.
I think
on my main,
it
was like I used to like suicide my guys for like 50% ancient bone voyages. So like my ports is a disaster until like the resource bundles from like Falador event, where I was able to like stock up on Azure and get my people back. But
hold on. You know, if you get lifeboats, they can't die, right?
Yeah, but imagine doing the random events. I only started doing them after like everything in my ports died, and I really needed to recover.
This is going back to the fact that, you know, skilling benefits.
It really. That's why I thought it was so relevant. And we're definitely like, we represent the community pretty well, because Ideal wants to PVM, and he just wants to PVM and doesn't want this ports thing. Like, say there's an anima totem that gives you 6% increased damage against Telos, and it takes a year to get.
Whoa! Well, I don't like time lock content general, just to put it out there.
I definitely do it, but I wouldn't like it, you know?
I think
I do get it.
For example, as ports rewards has become less and less powerful as time has gone past, right? I think they should balance it. So, all voyages, I think, should be halved. All voyage journeys should be halved. Just because it's not
time or rewards.
In time, like voyage journeys are halved in terms of time. And like, for example, a Mazcab raid should be every day now, rather than every 2 days. So you're saying
over time?
So over time, as the rewards become less relevant and less powerful, they should also balance the time lock relevant to it.
I think,
and it wouldn't be a hard change to make.
Bones are still pretty relevant. There's a lot of content that you do with Vamp Scrim. I don't know about that. Like,
I mean,
vamps.
Objectively speaking, it's less.
I disagree. Like, you do moss golems with vamp scrimshaw now.
What?
You melee moss golems with a scythe, and you use a vamp scrim now.
Do you? I thought you would like kite them with.
You don't need to kite. No. You don't need to kite them at all. You just
why
stand
are we talking
there.
about moss columns? I'm so confused.
Because I'm saying there's new content where they've made it more relevant. Like Edimu, you just use a vampire scrim as well, and you get 9 of them on you at once.
You just soul split.
You don't. You pray melee. You pray mage. You pray mage and just use a vamp scrim, and you can AFK it for 6 minutes.
I'm pretty sure the cannon method you can use soul split.
You can't if a big Edimu comes. So like basically what you can do is flick on the scrimshaw, go to the bathroom, and come back and have 40 Edimus.
I'm not saying that vamp scrimshaw and scrimshaws are dead content. I'm just saying like we've had like books released, we've had Grimoire.
Yeah. We did have Grimshaw tactics
like,
developed.
Grimoire objectively makes scrimshaws less powerful, essentially, in comparison. Am I wrong? Am I?
No, you're right in comparison. In comparison, but when armor gets more powerful, armor gets more powerful, and you can lean on things like vamp scrim, like. I don't know. I just don't think they've gotten any less relevant, and that's supported by the fact that they're still the price they are.
If there's a location where you use Grimoire, then they have become less relevant, because if Grimoire didn't exist, you would be using
because they keep making new locations. And anyway, this is a completely different
I'm just saying
argument,
they should. I don't mind time locked stuff, but they should adapt it to how relevant that content is. Like
that's very hard to gauge, though.
That's why you need a JMod that is knowledgeable in the experience of the game and knows what they're doing.
Like Salawa, like a lot of people do Salawas now.
What's
Salawa Ox? They're the second best elite clues to shadow creatures.
Which one is that? Is that
and they're like 4 mil an hour.
Is that
no? That's Feline Ox. That's Feline Ox. Salawa Ox is like a little dingo or like jackal. I guess it's closer to a jackal than a dingo. But anyway, Salawa Ox are like 4 mil cash an hour and the second best elites, and you only use Vamp Scrim.
I'm pretty sure you can do them with Soul Split.
There's no reason to use Soul Split if you can hardcore AFK with Prey Melee and do it on your phone.
It's an option. I'm not saying...
Okay, it is an option, but nobody does it.
Hey, I did it yesterday. I was doing Slayer for Slayer points, and I used chains.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think to the overall discussion, it would be more relevant to talk about like elements and cruelty rather than Vamp Scrim versus Grimoire.
That's true. That is more relevant. Ideal's totally right. Is that they came out with Grimoire, and they came out with other pocket slide items that have reduced the need to necessarily use superior cruelty or superior elements. And a lot of people are actually using, like Arma Book now, and even like Zami Book on AoE mobs. So it is definitely interesting. Isn't there a use for like Bandos Book too? Don't people use it at on Yakamaru?
What the fuck does Bandos Book do?
No, it's like the super budget people used to
use it. Is it just super budget?
Are you being an elitist flaming right now, Ideal?
No, like that hammer was like actually expensive. Like when AOD was really popular and they were like 200 mil each. Then people use Bandos Book for cheap affinity. It gives like a chance of giving +3 affinity, but like once hammer became like super cheap because of bots or whatever, it became obsolete. There's no reason to ever use it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think a large impact on this is people's play styles, right? So like depending on how hard people want to AFK, and we're looking mostly at the high level PvM community. So for the high level PvM community, you can either spend the 3.5 mil an hour to use Erythors, or you can spend 1.5 mil an hour to use Arma Book, or you can spend like 800k to use the Scrimshaw. So a lot of people, especially if again you're like hardcore AFKing, are gonna use the vampirism but like for mobile, if there's a lot more people playing in like a mobile friendly style, they're going to be using either Scrimshaw or just Like when you do Spirit Warriors or whatever, you don't even use. You just use Grimoire unactivated. So you're right that there has
I'm not
been
disagreeing
some
that
relevance removed from
Scrimshaw
it.
is used more. I'm just saying it's become slightly less relevant as time has gone past, and that's, I mean, the main part of the discussion is that I think that time locked stuff should be reduced in time as
Gotcha.
the game progresses.
Gotcha.
That's all, and that
I get
the
it.
reason I brought
Yeah,
that
I get
up
it.
was because of the camp, right?
You know how they could reduce it? By adding another region to ports, and you get more
No,
speed.
but that's
and raising the speed
that's
cap.
development. You don't want to give them too much time. There should be like a 5-minute change, like just half the fucking. I mean, it wouldn't be a 5-minute change, but like just half the time, half the journey times, and
right.
make it so you can, especially Mazcap. I think Mazcap should be resettable every day now rather than every 2 days, or
Yeah, I think that's
double the loot. Like
Well,
the
oh,
loot,
yeah.
the loot
People
is pretty
complain about
fucking
Act-
shit. Let's be serious.
People complain about Acto all the time, so.
No, I'm talking about like
I don't
not. I'm not necessarily talking about actor. I'm talking about the normal loot.
I
I
agree
don't
with
really-
Omid
I
here
don't-
for like
Yeah.
a little bit different of a reason. So I feel like it should be like faster to catch up to the high levels when you're in the mid levels, in order to like facilitate people like exploring new content. So
For sure.
It's like a catch-up
Like,
mechanic, essentially.
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the main comment is usually about Acto, though, Omid. I don't think people really care about whether the regular drops are 3 mil between Beastmaster and Yaka or 5 mil. I don't think it really matters much. I think most of the complaints are, it's going to take on average 3 months to get full all 3 Acto sets. I think that's the most common complaint. Do you think that's valid?
Is raids good GB per hour on average?
It's like 10 mil.
Well, people are saying 200 mil. I'm a bit confused.
Raids with rate FC is negative GP per hour.
I mean, realistically speaking, with like fails and stuff, because like raids has like probably the highest fail rate than any group.
Yeah,
does,
because you're
right?
depending on 9 other people. Which usually becomes like 6 or
I mean,
7
if we're gonna
you're in
speak
Raid FC.
theoretical, then let's speak theoretical at fucking Telos as well. Might as well, dude. How much?
Realistically, raids is probably 10 mil an hour.
I wouldn't say. I just think that it should be really good because it's a time locked event. I think people should be.
So if they're going to keep the time lock, increase the GP.
There should be incentive to go there, even if you have actor.
Yeah.
Basically, is what I'm saying, and that's to help other people get actor while you're also making a lot of GP. Also, I think that if you get an actor drop while you have all actor, it should just be converted to other items rather than essentially gold. But hey,
Somebody said 15 to 25 mil an hour, which would kind of make sense because
I mean,
you die with your extra acto. So like if you've already completed the whole set, that adds a big amount to the GP per hour.
So how do you guys? I've always liked building, like acquiring something in the game and building on it. How do you guys feel about that? And let me give an example. The best example I have for PvM in that regard is Araxor Pet. How do you guys feel about getting a Araxor Pet and having to essentially build on it by doing feats and challenges? Would you guys like to see that in armors and weapons and guilds and other things? Does that idea like appeal to you?
Ideally, you can go first.
Yeah, honestly, I had a lot of fun when I was doing, like, Araxor was like the first boss I actually did. So like doing those challenges was like really fun, like getting me out of my comfort zone, doing things that we wouldn't normally do, like different styles at Rax or whatever. And I do like the idea of upgrading things, like in other MMOs. You like Fallout, for example, you build like your weapon upgrades, and like I feel like RuneScape has that minimally with perks, but I feel like upgrading things would be something that I'd be interested, because it's like fun, you get to like grind and do stuff that you particularly enjoy. Like if you like a particular weapon, then you can like choose to focus on that, or a style or whatever.
So would you want upgradable armor or weapons based on like using them? Like
I like
example. Yeah.
I like, sorry, I just to elaborate, I like it, you upgrading it based on challenges rather than just how much time you've played. you know.
Are you talking a cosmetic upgrade or a stat
No,
upgrade?
I know the example Raxor Pet was a cosmetic upgrade, but that's because that's literally the only PvM thing in the game that you can like build on, you know. So like you acquire like. I mean, the PvM guild was the idea that I put forward, was like you get access to the PvM guild by doing a certain piece of content, then you upgrade your PvM guild by just doing feats around Gillenor, like 1000 rage, unlock something, you know, doing
something cosmetic or something.
No,
that gives you
something that actually gives you like a benefit, a dummy that gives you 100% adrenaline instantly, like for example. Things like that.
How do you feel about that ideal? Do you want to go get grave robber title to
no, that's
have
not,
a 100%?
That's a grave robber title is something you just pay a lot to get.
It's just an example.
No examples like that, please, on my podcast. Thank you.
No, but I would like the idea of like unlocking that 100% adrenaline thing from like getting a warden title or 1k Telos or something like that.
Yeah, and like challenges like no food, no armor, except X with certain gear. And like it'd be cool if you just get like to do the challenge, for example. I just thought of this. All right, I need to say it before I forget. So you pay like 1 mil to do a challenge, and it gives you a preset and all the food ready to go. Like, so you basically go there naked, and it just puts you, and it just like equips you with everything, and it gives you all the food necessary. And that's like how the challenge is balanced around, right? It gives you certain food to make it hard. It gives you certain weapons to make it hard, etc., etc. And that's also
I think they're
really
more
good
likely
gold
to do
sync as
that. I think they're more likely to do that with a cosmetic reward.
No,
like,
it shouldn't be cosmetic though.
But look at the
it should be like difficult. It
Pet.
should be like suggestions from high level PVMers like Couchin, Ideal, and maybe Artiphones.
Even so, I think it's more likely that they would make the Telos Pet like overrideable with the different colored golems. Like, I think that's more likely than them adding non-cosmetic benefits behind PvM challenges to existing bosses, for better or worse.
I don't think.
I agree it'd be more likely, but I agree that it should be like not cosmetic.
I agree. I agree. It's gonna be more likely, but it shouldn't be cosmetic. Like, if it's cosmetic, I don't give a shit about it, honestly.
Exactly.
Like, who cares about titles and overrides and shit? Whenever you get a reward like that, it doesn't feel good because there's so much of it in game, and it's like released every week. Every week we get like a full override. We get a title.
A new title.
I said this. Like, delete 99% of titles and 99% of overrides to make them actually meaningful. Boom.
Are you using your Stormbreaker title, Omid?
Hell no.
And wearing your Varrock,
someone was like,
whatever it's called, outfit?
Someone mentioned, hey, you're rocking the blazing title. Nice, dude. I'm like, I don't even remember me putting on that title. I don't even look at it. I don't know.
I think you're right, though. I think they should tie non-cosmetic benefits to actual like skillful endeavors, because so much of RS has always been based on how much time you can spend doing
stuff.
Like, if they put a little bit more behind skill,
that's the time aspect is fine, but I think there should also be the skill aspect.
What's the limit, though? Do you put something non-cosmetic behind Golden Daredevil title, or a similar achievement that takes a lot of effort and coordination, or do you not put anything behind group content? Because that's the stuff that they're gonna have to struggle with, right?
Yeah.
Is how to balance it around people who don't like to play with groups, people who only play solo.
Get those people out of my game.
I agree with you, but I'm just saying what Reddit will be like the day after they put a +2 passive behind Golden Daredevil.
I think people don't realize the potential behind group bosses. That's the really unfortunate side of RuneScape and its communities. Like, they want unrealistic shit. They want a solo boss that's really good money, but that's easily accessible. That's also prestigious. They want like a skilling activity that's really good G per hour, but AFK that has a high. It's like these things aren't just like realistic. Like, what you're asking for is just not. It can't happen. Like the potential that RuneScape 3 PvM has in group bossing is like so vast. Like, look at Virago. Virago is still like considered as like
the best boss.
one of the best bosses ever, and that was released 6 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
Wow.
just to make you guys think about that. Don't let that keep you up at night. So what do you guys think of? Just to go off a little bit of tangent here. What do you guys think of the 1,000 Reaper points for Majora?
The 1,000 Reaper points or the 3 bonds?
Or the 3 bonds.
I mean, both.
Yeah,
Just the
that's the
whole
more
just the
controversial.
pricing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad they're making it available, but like, who's gonna spend the Reaper points? You know,
Yeah.
3 bonds.
I
Nope.
can't believe they stuck with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
That's I'm shocked.
it's so
I'm
dumb.
like I'm like
Especially when they put out the math, like, oh, you can just buy 3 Hydrix, and like, who's
yeah. It's just
who's
like
gonna use the Reaper points?
I mean I was like okay it's a bit silly that they made it 1,000 Reaper points, but surely they'll look at the feedback and change it. They haven't changed it. They literally said it in the most recent BTS, I think. They said 1,000 Reaper points again. I'm just like sitting there like do they not realize the like GP value of Reaper points?
Yeah.
Apparently not. Nobody did that math.
And I'm fine if they didn't do the map. But I just expected them to change it. Like, I don't know. So
All right, so this is mostly PVM centric
Right.
discussion, obviously, but the topic is, right on everybody's minds for Monday, land out of time. There really isn't PVM, right?
dude, they said no boss. Do you think they're lying?
There's 8 Slayer creatures. I think, if we do get a boss, it's not going to be on Monday. It's going to be like 3 months from now when they expand land out of time, or like 6 weeks from now at a minimum.
So you think it'd be like Magister?
Yeah, something
Wait,
like
you think
that,
there's gonna
right?
be a boss like that? You think there's gonna be a boss for this update?
So they did say they are releasing parts of Anachronia after the 8th of July. So I think the likelihood that there is a boss is very high. But the likelihood that it comes out in 36 hours is not very high at all.
But they said that everything that comes with this, it's not gonna be batch essentially.
Everything discussed already will be out on Monday. That's what they said. So like
I
the
swear
agility
they
course,
specifically
big
said-
game hunter, Slayer.
I swear that JMod confirmed that it's the one of the lead developers on it said that it's not gonna come out in batches and everything's gonna be out on Monday. That's ever gonna be out.
That's not how I interpreted the statement. It was basically said to be everything that they've discussed already. So big game hunter, the agility course, base camp, the 8 Slayer creatures are all going to be out on the 8th. Anything that they haven't already announced in the BTS could come out at a later time.
What do you guys think of Big Game Hunter? Since we're on LO land out of time speculation.
It's interesting.
I feel like
I'm glad that they're making it more diverse, but
It's supposed to be more PVM styled.
yeah. But I really feel like it's too early to say, and we'll just have to see like how it is when it comes out.
So where do you acquire the armor from? From the Big Game Hunting?
Yeah.
The tier
Yeah.
75? So
Tier
what rewards-
75 ranged armor.
tank. Oh my god.
What rewards do you think the Slayer mobs are gonna have? Nothing?
That is what I was thinking about. And stop
That's
me
a
if
high level.
yeah.
Slayer
It's
mobs.
real 114 Slayer for the highest dino.
Ooh.
So
Sorry, go on.
you first.
No, I was
You first.
gonna tangent go.
Well, I was just thinking when Solak came out, one of the more impactful parts of the Lost Grove update, Cinderbanes.
Yeah.
Cinderbanes weren't like
It's in the brains.
nobody knew they were going to come in and be so good, right? I wouldn't be surprised if one of the most impactful parts of Land Out of Time is the Slayer drop from whatever the 114 dino is.
boot variations.
Mm.
We still haven't had any. We've had Nightmare Gauntlets and Cinderbanes, no boots.
Okay. So what are you thinking? T90 melee boots
Just
or
throwing
like
out
a
there.
hybrid?
The
Like
problem,
a hybrid.
The problem I have with a lot of these, like
Cinder boots.
they just become like overall best in slot, and that's because the other variants aren't significantly stronger. Like for example, to extreme and unrealistic example, Ascension, what are they called? They're not gloves.
Grips.
Grips. Ascension grips should be like 30 more damage than Nightmare Gauntlets.
Yeah.
Like it should be more it should be like significantly more damage than Nightmare Gauntlets in general. But like Nightmare Gauntlets are just better in overall. And that should be the case. It should be niche, right? That's what same as Cinderbanes. It's not niche enough. It's just like too good, especially considering it's hybrid as well. Like I don't like that. And it's kind of it's a bit unrealistic to do that with Boots and Gloves having such a low strength bonus.
Well, yeah, Cinderbanes are pretty much best in slot everywhere they work, right? Besides like high level, you want the reflect of Bracelet. So pretty much everywhere except high level Telos, where Cinderbanes works, Cinderbanes are best. I would say that's pretty OP. But that's why they're 40 mil. That's why they're 40 mil.
Yeah.
At 4K in Rage, assuming armor doesn't matter. Assuming Death Touch Bracelet has the same armor as Cinderbanes, is Cinderbanes better than Death Touch Bracelet?
I don't think so. You take so much damage at 4K.
So DTB is better, right?
Yeah.
Okay. At what point do you think DTB is better? What in Rage?
I've never like done the math myself, but I've seen like 2.8K thrown around because like the math is like hard to actually figure out.
Okay. So
yeah. Big Game Hunter, though, the main thing that I think is gonna like obviously the T75 range armor, unless it like disassembles for very high chance components, is gonna be absolutely useless.
Yeah.
Or if it's good crafting XP, it might be good for that, but it's gonna be useless. The maul is actually the more interesting part. Do you guys think the maul will be desirable, like based on the bosses it works on?
Hex Hunter both, not less. Because you have Scythe, for example, as a switch. That's it. Yeah.
Because it doesn't have halberd range, and so many people, use that extensively, and that's why Scythe is, still so in demand. I think the maul will actually be, less desirable than Hex Hunter bow. So unless there is something from these high-level Slayer creatures, the plants and the dinos, a lot of this update is going to hinge on future expansion and the base camp.
Yeah. I mean, I just hope the base camp is fun in terms of just upgrade. I just like upgrading stuff, like tempo tracking imports, personally. Yeah. And I hope it gives, like, significant and potentially niche rewards. Like, I was saying earlier, was that how would you guys feel about the T75 tank armor working as a tier 99 power armor in land out time?
What is there to kill in land out time?
Yeah.
There's 8 Slayer
yeah, obviously,
mobs.
I'm not saying it'd be like, oh my god, it'd be the best thing to get, but it's like it gives it a niche effect. It gives it
hypothetically, when the boss comes out in land out of time, if that ever happens, it would be extremely valuable. So it's hard to balance.
They
around
said that there was going to be no boss. I don't know if JMods are lying to cover up, but they
said absolutely no Fossil Island this summer in spring. If you
also,
remember.
do you think that there's no skill, right? Do you guys think there's going to be a skill? No, there's
maybe
no
in
way.
a couple months.
Yeah, that'd be interesting if there was, but I don't know.
Maybe
I hope there's a
couple
lot
months.
of surprises like that, though.
I'm really excited because they're hiding a lot of it.
Yeah.
Oh, the most exciting thing, in my opinion, building your own Slayer mob sounds fun.
I think you're just planting the existing mob, aren't you? So like the four
really?
plants four plants that exist. You can just alternatively.
Oh, really?
Instead of going to them on the island, you can plant them in a plot, which is probably close to a bank or whatever.
I thought you like plant it. You have the like you add like you drip some shit on it and it goes like 100+ combat, and you drip some shit on it and it gains like 1k plus damage. You drip some shit on it and it gains 100k health, and when
I don't know what kind of fever dream you made this open.
Yeah.
And then it grows and you kill it and then it like drops like a shit ton of loot. It'll be like extreme
I think
version
you
of
made
elite.
this up entirely.
But it sounds cool, does it not? It's like the
It
James
does
Bond
sound
one.
cool, but I've never heard anything about it.
Fuck this, dude. That's what I thought, dude. That's what that little plan was put in my that little seed was planted in my head and just like blew up basically.
Dang.
I don't know.
Ideal. If there's no boss on release, which it sounds like at least for the 8th, there's not going to be a boss. Is there anything in particular you're excited for in Land Out of Time?
Honestly, not really.
Yeah.
But I like that there's a lot of stuff that they aren't revealing, and so I'll probably like check it out still. Stuff to like explore, you know?
Yeah.
Like sense of discovery is like priceless, honestly, in terms of RuneScape. Like I love discovering new things, like figuring out optimal stuff.
Yeah.
So
Like,
Yeah.
for example, I think a moment me and Gunnar shared Dragon Sounds is when we got our comp cape and we did the emoji. You remember that? In Barak Fountain,
Yeah.
we literally just like started screaming on Ventrilo to each other because like the emote was so nutty and like never seen before, and it was like it was like a bigger emote than anything else. Like
that was insane. How young and naive we were.
Dude, that shit, like, I love that. They should like keep most of it a surprise. Like that it's I think that's so huge to content being fun.
I think one of the most meta things about this release though is cluster tasks from the new Slayer Master. That's huge because
can you
presumably
sorry, I think they said you couldn't, right? You can't ban.
You can't block them. No.
Oh yeah, block. Sorry.
But you can probably prefer them, maybe.
I would think not. I think it's because
if you can't block,
because there's a completely the reason they probably done this is because there's a actually no. I was gonna say it's a probably completely separate system, so they have to code it again.
Maybe.
But it's probably because it'd be OP because there wouldn't be that.
It's
many
gonna
tasks.
be OP. Like if you get a dragon task and it's 300 dragons. Because the number goes up, right? Morvern can assign to 299 without
300 dragons sounds really high. Like, what are dragons that? Yeah, I don't.
Gemstones.
What I'm saying is you could go do gemstones. Yeah, you could go do 300
I'm just saying,
Hydrix dragons.
I just don't think it'd be 300 if it was like that.
Look at like blue dragons. Like if you get assigned blue dragons, it's gonna be a lot.
Yeah,
right.
But I'm saying if you average every range of every dragon that Morvern gives, it wouldn't even be close to 300.
Yeah, but they're not gonna. We'll see how they balance it. But I wouldn't be surprised if you can get a 300 any dragon task.
I wonder if that'll be. Do you think that'll be more efficient than Morvern?
It will. Well, I can't say before the numbers. Obviously. Yeah, obviously. But I think so.
Do you think?
I think so.
Okay. I mean, depends how. Has anyone like gone through the Slayer list and categorized them all? Because I'd like to see how many. I don't actually know how many categories there are. How many clusters there are.
Well, it depends on if they do like small clusters, right? Like Ganodermic creatures or like Lost Grove creatures that are already their individual tasks. I don't think they will, right? Oh, okay. I think they'll mostly do demons, dragons, undead.
Oh, that
maybe.
Broad?
Yeah,
you that think undead?
Broad. That broad.
Ooh.
Dragons is definitely one. The only example they've used is just dragons.
Yeah, dragons.
So that's huge because you can do a QBD assignment of like 300.
Then there wouldn't be that many clusters. Well, what is there? Fucking dragons?
Well,
demons,
she's also level 90 compared to Morvern's 85. So it's just going to be a higher number and it's going to remove some of the lower stuff. So like Morvern has an increased chance of assigning what? Edmu, Eru.
Calfights are already their own category, so according to Gunnar's logic, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Anything that has its own category already probably wouldn't.
Yeah,
because then
I doubt.
Same.
But we could.
But then I can't think of anything outside dragons, undead, and demon, unless I'm being
things that have perks. But
so
I don't know.
Is there anything else you guys want? The problem I think the worry I have with big game hunters that it'll be like. I hope it has nothing to do with like the aiming of the arrow thing that you shoot at the dinosaur, because we all know that how clunky that feels when you try to aim. Like
I don't think you aim. I think you lure based on the last video. You lure the dino
but how the fuck
onto the platform, and then the ballistas fire. Yeah. That looks smart.
I feel like I'll be pleasantly surprised if they do a really good job of Big Game Hunter.
They said it's balanced around double surge. So you have to move a lot.
Yeah, okay.
So
speaking
it
of double
surge, really interesting.
I'm
Speaking of
like,
double surge,
I'm interested to see like what they'll do with the agility course. Like they're saying you'll use it to like travel around the island.
Mhm.
So
yeah, it's meant to be the fastest
could
way
be
to travel around the island, and apparently there's ways to make it faster by you putting effort. So probably like blade diving to the next obstacle section and stuff. So that's good. I'm glad they did that because I didn't want another Heffin personally.
Exactly, yeah. I'm glad they're like doing something different with agility besides like just a simple shortcut or just like a course lab that you run around.
Every agility course has that. I mean, Gunnar will know. Like you like click in certain spots to walk diagonally instead of like. You save so much time. It might
advanced barb outposts where you click right before the obstacle.
Yeah,
like
it's
every
so
obstacle.
much. And you save like one tick each time, but that adds up and it saves like a significant percentage, which I think is like barb cores you can save up to like, is it like 20 something percent, like low 20%?
Yeah,
it's like insane. Yep. If you think about it, that's like crazy. You're getting 20% more XP from just putting in more effort, which is awesome.
Yep.
And I like that.
It was awesome before Silverhawks came out.
Do you guys think that Land Out of Time is going to be suffer from the same thing as Menethos, as like a lot of like dead space? Is that a worry for you
They
guys?
said they're working on the examines. So that's, I think, a complaint a lot of people had where NPCs and buildings just didn't have examines, like right clicks.
Wait, that's the issue? I just thought that there was nothing.
That's what a lot of people complained about.
Examines?
Yeah. Well, look at Menethos now. Look at how often the average player interfaces with personal Slayer dungeons, the Feather of Mott creatures like the Corrupted and Soul Devourers. And then, like, because Menethos is supposed to be mid-game, look at how often that content is used for mining and fishing, etc. I actually think Menethos ended up getting a bad rep in the first couple weeks because of how little there was to do for high-level players. Yeah. But then, over time, the reputation got better because there is actually quite a bit to do there. Specifically, player-owned Slayer dungeons are really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Menethos doesn't have relevant content for like variety of players, but I'm just saying there's a lot of space that just no one cares about, no one goes to. There's just wasted.
Yeah, agreed.
No, you're definitely right.
Also, someone said someone's complaining about the ability to enter the area with low requirements, and I personally like that. I like low players being able to enter a high level area but not be able to do anything and potentially getting killed by the inhabitants. Actually,
that would be interesting.
Like I don't mind if a level 3 can enter it, but if they enter it and the plant looks at him, he's just gonna like one shot him, for example. Like it should be like a hostile environment.
Yeah.
But they should have the ability to like explore, in my opinion.
Yeah, they just have to put like 6 warnings on the boat.
Because in any MMO, you go like explore around and you get killed. You're like, fuck, I wanna get strong enough to get to that area and kill that motherfucker.
Exactly, it's motivation.
Dude, when I lost my full mithril to the Varrock Wizards, I leveled the fuck up. I got my cannon and I went there and I killed those fuckers for like an hour. That's revenge. Yeah. But
no, it totally would be good if they made it dangerous. That's not the current stance of the game, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's going to be a safe base area. I don't think the Slayer monsters will be aggressive. I don't think there's going to be any particularly challenging environmental
I think they should be aggressive to low-level players. Actually,
that would be awesome.
I mean,
but I don't think it's going to happen.
It sounds a bit toxic, like looking at it from a high-level perspective. But as a low-level player, those experiences like are so memorable, and you look back at it with it's such fondness.
I think it would be cool if like the first time they went there and like they got one-shotted and died, like they got a safe death for once.
They got a safe death.
It's like a warning, you know, like make sure you're
give you
high
like
level
a
before you go.
It'll give you like a cheeky message, like. All right, so we have to quickly move on to the Q&A because the time is running out. I'm sorry, guys. All right, so Q&A Discord. I hope you guys have asked your questions because I'm going to grab them right now because I can't use their cams while doing this. And I'm just going to copy them. Wait, there have been no... there's been one
question.
One question.
Whoa.
Well, unlucky, boys.
Take stuff from non-subs in chat.
Yeah, fuck non-subs, dude. Plebs. Alright, so if Jax continues to focus... I mean, if anyone has any questions, you got like 5 minutes.
You're going to take questions for 5 minutes? We're going to be here for
No,
6 hours.
5 minutes to... I mean, there's only one question, so... If Jax continues to focus on mid-level content bosses and you can't persuade them to develop a high-level boss, what type of boss would you want them to develop? Want to be developed to help introduce players to high-level PvM bosses, and what would the rewards be from the mid-level boss? So, yeah,
I'll go first.
Okay.
So Hostilius and Enrage mechanic supported bosses in general, you could start them out at a difficulty where a mid-level player could do it. And then every time you subsequently do it, it could become more and more difficult. Just putting the bar... You look at 100% Telos, you can brute force up to 100% Telos, not knowing any of the mechanics. So similarly for Hostilius, if you started it, or if you made it available or accessible to people with lower requirements, you could then scale it up and up and up until it surpasses 4K Telos. So I think all they have to do is just make the experience scalable. And then it's approachable for mid-level, but it's also streamable for people like Ideal. And yeah, it doesn't really matter what the rewards are at that point if the difficulty goes from like super elementary to very difficult. As for rewards, I think we've underexplored the sigil slot, so we could probably add some sort of sigil capabilities, or maybe something that you could use to proc the sigils at an increased rate, or something you could use to lower degrade time. Yeah, I would say sigils are underexplored.
Sorry.
No, you go. You're the guest.
All right, so I feel like there's enough mid-level content. Like God Wars 2 is like a really good introduction, then Rax as well. But if there was another boss that they had to release, I would say something that you can't get carried through in a group encounter. So like they're forced to pull their own weight and like be punished if they don't. Ooh. So you can't just like buy a leech or something.
Ooh.
What's up?
So first I thought of like an enrage mechanic, right, to introduce you to like an enrage mechanic. But now if you just said that, I thought of kind of Solak, right? But you get put in like separate shadows.
Is that my internet or did you cut out?
Wait, did I cut out?
I think that was my internet. Sorry.
Do you want me to
say what you're saying again?
Okay, so basically I'm thinking mid-level, so like earlier than Rax. So I thought introduce them to an enrage mechanic for starters, and then 2, with what you said regarding not being able to be carried, like during the boss fight, you get like put into like separate, like in a duo boss fight, you get put into a separate like realm that you have to do your own stuff to get through, and maybe even if you want to go that high, go a lot further, maybe have like certain things that you have to communicate to each other. Like for example, you get like a blue mage, right? And then the other person has a blue, green, and yellow mage, right? And that person has to relay that information to that person, to the other person in the other realm to kill the blue one. Because if he hits any of the other ones, he gets like a 5k reflect or some shit.
So you're talking like a training boss, basically.
No, this is like a part of the boss where like it's a duo boss, right? Duo mid-level boss.
It's just like Solak,
and you just get like
you
get like torn into different realms. Like the boss goes like he like fucking slams the ground, and you both get put into like a shadow realm that is completely separate, and you have to carry your own weight and potentially communicate certain information to each other to get through. And you go back to the boss fight. It was regards to that idea just came to my head from what Ideal said was like not being able to carry it, because you have to carry your own weight in that separate shadow realm, for example.
Yeah.
Sounds like, do you have
That's a good
rots?
idea.
I mean, kinda, but like rots is like just DPS essentially.
Yeah.
Whereas
So you're thinking it should be more about introducing players to mechanics and communication?
basically,
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's smart.
sounds like
In terms of
BA.
rewards, probably something untradeable that are also like would help them in high level, but like not be essential.
Give us an example, Ideal.
I'm trying to think of something, but
Could
Omid, you should submit that. You should write that up and
Yeah.
submit that.
really?
Because there is a gap between bosses that you can brute force with, just as much
I
damage as you
mean,
can.
I feel like
and
I have
then,
a
like,
lot.
Arax.
I feel
yeah.
like I have better ideas for bosses, but I just came
Well,
up.
but-
I just came up
so
with
this
this
is
on the
more like-
spot just now. So
Yeah, this is more likely to happen because it bridges the
Yeah,
gap between
but-
like group single PVM and group PVM.
you know me, I'm not about the stuff that's likely
All
to
right,
happen.
well-
I just go with what I.
Have somebody else write it up then.
But yeah, rewards is a bit harder because you kind of want to still incentivize like high level PVMers to do it, but at the same time you don't want it to be too good for like mid level players.
Right.
yeah.
But that rewards are much harder to come up with, in my opinion. Yeah.
Ooh, you know what I just thought about? Kind of bridging an idea I had earlier in your idea. What if it were like a summoner, and then in the shadow realm and the main realm, different familiars could spawn, and you had to communicate that and kill the same familiar on both sides. And the drops were essence that increases the potency of any familiar pouch. Wouldn't that would be pretty cool, I think.
Potency. Can you like elaborate on that?
So
Yeah.
like whatever the numbers are for a Nihil, like a Nihil is X accuracy, X max damage, X duration, and X increase to your accuracy. Add 25% to that for an enhanced Nihil pouch of any type of Nihil.
Man, you're really stuck on this pouch enhancement.
I'm just thinking
You
thematically it
brought
would
this
work.
up like 5 times
Thematically it would work.
No, I mean, I like that. Like, I think I'm not very good with rewards personally. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not good at thinking of new rewards that introduce new playstyle. But I think,
Yeah.
do you think like new rewards that introduce new playstyles should be implemented in mid level or high level? I think that's more of a thing for a feature for high level. Like, that's meant to be like. I actually don't know. I feel like it would be wasted on mid level.
I mean, you can get Asylum Surgeon Ring pretty low, and that affects
two wrongs don't
everybody.
make a right. I don't necessarily agree with how Asylum Surgeon is acquired,
Yeah.
personally. But okay, so are you excited or scared for the future of RuneScape PvM mainly?
Very scared.
Yeah, I'm very scared. I mean, you guys know me. For the past like 3 years, I've been like pretty dormant in terms of being excited or passionate about PvM, and that's because it just feels very stagnant. I feel like I've PvM'd in this game longer than most people, and I just can't
Yeah.
seem to
Yeah.
get back into it. It's really
I will-
hard for me.
I will say, Omid, be careful what you wish for.
What?
Because right now it might be stagnant. If weapon diversity goes into the game as it is currently,
Dang.
the meta is just screwed for
Yeah.
like 6 months at least. And then it's not even going to be about like what is the best individually. It will be about how many switches can you fit in your inventory.
Hey Twitch
So-
chat, how does tier 92.5 sound? Tier 90 accuracy, tier 95 accuracy, tier 90 damage. How's that sound? You like that shit? Excited for it? But you are. All right. Well, what do you think about old school as people getting banned for account sharing Fire Cape, Inferno Cape for Telos achievements?
I mean, I'm for it.
I'm for it as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm for it.
the reason people got banned for Inferno Cape, account sharing for Inferno Cape, was because that's an actual like benefit, whereas Telos is just cosmetic. So that's why they took action for anyone. I'm like almost certain. Like if there was like if you got like best in slot from 4K Telos and people account shared for that, 100% I would fucking hope Jace would take action
Yeah.
if people did that. which they.
So the
probably-
the problem is the inconsistent like messaging from Jagex. Like they say like, oh, you can share your account. It's just at your own risk. And then they're like,
Yeah, I mean,
you can share your account as long as you don't do anything, you know, exemplary, or you don't like get any rewards. So it's like, what is the real message?
I think they ended up on. I don't remember. It's just like you shouldn't be account sharing for competitive reasons.
Yeah,
Or
it's definitely
acquiring,
agreeable
like,
then.
I just think account sharing full stop. I think
It should be
account
bannable.
sharing.
It should just absolutely be bannable.
if you're progressing on the account, bannable. Like the only thing which I would be okay with people account sharing for is PvP. Like get on your account and go do like cast wars to have fun, or clan wars or some shit. If someone does that, I don't give a shit. But if you're playing on someone else's account and training it, or like getting high enraged Telos, or making money on it, then that's
Yeah.
progressing an account.
See, when deaths used to matter, I would have said I'm for it only if like your internet cuts out and you can call your brother and your brother can log in and
I
get your
remember that.
items.
Dude,
and
that
log
shit
out.
used to be so nerve-wracking.
Like that's the only thing I would absolutely support it for. But deaths don't matter anymore. So
Yeah, also for consistency, how about people that like bought Solak leeches and had people go on their accounts and get a
that's
kill for them?
ridiculous. That's so ridiculous. It's so
Yeah.
easy to get a Solak kill
Wait,
if you do it like in person and pay for the leech.
I mean,
but
people
to go
bought
one
that.
to go one more step and be like, oh, I can't eat for 3 minutes while you guys kill the boss. Like,
do you think? What do you guys think of leeching?
You first, ideal.
I'm personally like pretty indifferent to it. I see why it's a thing, but don't know if it should be bannable or offense.
Bannable.
Like taking
Jesus
offense.
fucking
Ooh,
Christ. I
maybe
don't know
not
about
bannable,
bannable.
Woo!
I don't know. I've never really like been part of the leech community at all. So
Really, I've done a lot of leeches myself.
Yeah.
I don't know,
I
it's
don't
like-
think it should be even an offense. Like, obviously, if you account share to have somebody like literally just do Solak for one kill, that should be bannable.
I
But
mean-
paying somebody for them to just carry you through the boss, I see absolutely no problem with that.
The problem is that Reaper is still a best in slot feature. You guys know my opinion.
Yeah.
I think they should just
Yeah.
completely fucking. Reaper was a lazy way of sustaining the stats of Comcape, and it's still like a best in slot feature, which I don't think should be the case. And if that wasn't the case, not a lot of people would do leeches, and it wouldn't be as big of a problem. So
Right.
I mean,
Right.
the thing is, it's like you're paying for a service, right?
Right,
And
yeah.
that could be also taken to a lot of other aspects of the game as well, like helping, like for example, like tagging and like
Yep.
killing for XP. I mean, I think tagging should have been removed like 5 fucking years ago, but hey, that's just me. I think the concept of tagging does not work in RuneScape 3, and it's fucking stupid. Like what's the point of tagging? To give like lower level play, like it was. I remember the reason they gave was to help low level players compete. But it's like, one, if they're competing against someone that's higher level than them and doing more DPS than them, then that they deserve that kill. And that's just
Yeah.
not, like, that's just healthy competition.
The old system wasn't good either, though. If you'll remember, it was half the XP went to the person who did the most damage, and half the XP went to the person who got the last hit.
That was
Wasn't it?
Slayer XP only.
That's
Obviously,
Slayer
because,
only.
because you get
Okay.
XP on drops, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
No
So,
Slayer
but
XP.
like,
It
that's
was.
no better. That's no better.
And the counter went down for the person who did the last hit only. The other person didn't
Yep.
lose count.
Yep.
So that's
People are gonna find ways to abuse that stuff, but you're right. It's not in a good place that a low level can just tag everything. So
yeah, personally, I don't really care for leeches that much. Like, doesn't really like feel like a major issue, you know?
Yeah,
I don't think it's like something they should be cracking down on
yeah,
in terms
I
of like
agree.
low level stuff, but it just raises questions of like consistency, you know?
They have limited bandwidth.
just-
There's other
Yeah.
things to focus on.
I mean, I think it will in agreement, but it's just like if something similar to Inferno Cape was released into RuneScape, people account sharing, they 100% we all agree that they would be banned, right? And they like not like we say that right now. We say account share should be banned, but like realistically, we don't think that Jake should put that much time and effort into just banning random account shares. But I think if something like that was released, we would want Jakes to actively
well, it goes back to seasonals and competitions too.
I think like anything competitive, like
yeah.
seasonals, whatchamacallit, new skill releases. A lot of people.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's hard to identify account sharing because a lot of people have siblings.
Same house. Yeah.
It's like
have siblings or wives or whatever.
How do you feel about someone buying a leech for a seasonal?
Like with somebody else getting on their account, or
no, just buying a leech. So, for example, 5-man DG.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Number one placement. Buying that.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I don't care because again,
I don't really
just
care
a service.
either.
It's just a service. It's whatever. If 4 people can get the 5-man first place, they deserve the money from selling the leech.
I think. Like, how much was it? Was it Danny who bought it? How much was it? Was it like 3? Who bought? Does anyone remember? People in chat probably.
I do remember, but no comment.
Wait, what do you mean?
Yeah, that's
like
fine. We don't need
public information. Chat, leak it. Oh, Danny and Sadden bought it. How much each? Wait, is Sadden in here? Oh, he's not.
Dang.
They were like
$2
$2
not even expensive for that.
Didn't Couchy buy it for like $2? Why is Couchy adding all these people? Did Zoltar buy it as well? I'm confused. Alright, so do we have any more questions? Let's check. Oh. Alright, I think one more question and then that's it, guys. How much of the new updates do you think will be catered to mobile?
I feel like a lot of it, they're going to push it for a while because of how much time they've spent developing it, how much they've been pushing it. I feel like the bank interface, for example, I'm pretty sure everyone has been speculating that it's because of mobile to make it easier for that. But I feel like a lot of it will be catered towards like casual environment, like casual gamers playing on their phones. So
I think the saving grace behind all this, though, is that even if they do cater some updates to, the mobile UI, there's so much content already in RuneScape that they don't even need to cater much of the new stuff towards mobile for people just starting to have more than enough to do. So I'm not overly worried, but it is kind of troubling that it's taken them how many years to get mobile out? Mm-hmm. Like, they're not just going to put it out and that will be it. They're going to get as much content adapted for that mobile UI as possible. And it's going to take a lot of time.
When is mobile meant to be released?
Winter 2017. We don't know.
Dang.
We don't know about Android Unlimited or iOS.
The beta hasn't the beta, I guess for iOS, but the beta for Android's been out for ages, right? Hasn't it? I got offered it when I went for ED3, ED1. I got offered a closed beta when I went to ED1, which was a year ago, right? ED1 was a year ago.
Yeah.
So
the first 25K came out a long time ago. Then they upped the cap twice, and you can always get it with the APK. So it's been out a while, basically, for Android.
Do you guys think mobile is going to be successful? Do you guys think that Jake's thinks that it's going to be as successful as old school mobile? Because I think
definitely not.
I think no. Do you think?
I mean, Jagex thinks, I think they will.
I think,
but will it? No.
Okay. I don't think even they think it will be as successful. The thing about old school is that
they're going to be as successful.
The thing about old school is that when you open up an old school stream, you can tell exactly what's going on. It's just a more marketable game. Like, if you go watch Ideal do 4K Telos, you're not going to know anything that's going on if you're a new player. Mm-hmm. So, like, do I think mobile will be successful? Yes, I do. Do I think it will be as successful as old school? I would say the chances are pretty slim.
You mean zero? Why even say
pretty slim? Well, the reason I say slim is because RuneScape is a game that looks somewhat at home in 2019. Old school looks like it came out in 2007 or earlier. Old school looks like it came out in like 1998 for the PlayStation. So like people who
old school graphics right now.
No, I don't care about graphics really, but some people do care about graphics. So when they see the top 10 games and they see RuneScape and they see old school, there's a certain subset of people that have no interest in playing a PS1 looking game, right? They're gonna look at RuneScape 3 and go towards that.
I think unfortunately a lot of people, there's a lot of stigma attached to RS3. I think it's
definitely
like most people are willing to openly talk about old school, but as soon as you talk about RS3, you'll get hounded. You know.
Yeah.
I remember,
sorta. That's the existing population, though, right? So, like, somebody who's never seen, like, a 13-year-old who's never heard of or seen RuneScape.
I mean, if they've never heard of either, then sure. But like most people, I would think that most gamers have heard of old school.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. And especially if you watch streams.
And we'll see like RS3 as the failure microtransaction pay-to-win game.
I think that requires a certain like knowledge of the game, though. Like if you're coming in brand new, if you're just opening up the App Store and saying, "Oh, what are some good free games?" and RuneScape says, "Oh, you can play this for thousands of hours," and it's $11 a month or whatever we pay currently. I think that's attractive to a lot of people. Again, it's not as marketable.
Attracted to instant gratification, which means they're not interested in thousands of hours like we used to be.
I just don't understand the kids these days.
I mean, the thing is, I feel like they're trying to bring back in old people who used to play it with like the nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
And like that's who they're catering towards. Like kids these days are not going to be playing RuneScape. And from my experiences, like everyone who used to play RuneScape but quit back in like 2008, 2010, 2012, whatever, they see old school and they recognize it, and like it has the nostalgia factor, and then they see RS3 as like this completely new game, like WoW equivalent, whatever.
Yeah.
At least from like people I've seen like around me at like my university.
No, I'd agree with that. I mean, Omid and I are a little older than the majority of the RS population, but it's definitely that way with us too. That's why I think that a large subset of the people that they're trying to bring in with mobile are completely new. So like they're going to track well, right? Old school RuneScape tracks really well in the games section of the app stores. So I think RS3 will track well also, and that will bring in some new people. Do I think it will be like the saving grace and RS3 numbers will be at 100,000 concurrent players? Probably not.
Why do you keep saying probably not?
Probably not.
That's insane, like delusionally optimistic to say probably.
I'm pretty optimistic about mobile because I play on TeamViewer all the time.
I understand, but you're an existing player.
That's you're very, very right.
We're mainly like focusing on how successful mobile will be with new players.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it will be successful.
Well, wait, what do you guys think?
Not super successful.
What do you guys think what do you guys think RuneScape needs? What do you guys think RuneScape needs to be successful? Hard question. Throwing it out there.
Really hard question, yeah.
That is, I wasn't ready. I don't have any notes on this.
I think make existing players happy by quality of life and expanding endgame over reworking dead content to make other content dead in turn, while also making the new player experience better and filling in mid-level. That's like, I think stop reworking content, stop trying to cater to casuals, and focus on quality of life and expanding on endgame skilling and PvM to make existing players happy. Because the way you bring in new players is by making existing players happy.
Yeah.
That like I feel like people, like a lot of, not even Jace, a lot of game developers, I feel like have lost sight of that, which is really unfortunate.
So, Omid, you did kind of speak to something that is largely problematic with the future of RuneScape, right? Is a lot of people do want that instant gratification. If you show somebody a game and like, yeah, you can do what I'm doing, in only 2,000 hours. Like, that's a hard sell for a lot of people. So I think definitely the new player, brand new player experience is even more important than the mid-level experience. Not a lot of people make it to level
I agree,
110.
but
not a lot of people make it to level 110 combat and quit. Far more people make it to like combat 40 and quit because they're overwhelmed or have no idea what to do.
I agree with that. I think reworking content and filling content, right? Like, for example, like God Wars 2, and I mean, I don't need to list all the fucking filler content, like filler weapons and armors we've had. But like, yeah, I agree that making the early game better is better than that, but I still think like quality of life, and
absolutely,
pushing end game is definitely higher. But I definitely I just find like filling content and reworking content like all the way fucking down here. Like it's really, really bad. I think the only rework I've liked is BA. BA was a really good fucking rework.
And that's what they use as an example of a failed rework, because they made it OP for like bonus experience, and still they don't get the amount of players doing it
But that's because not a lot of players play the. I think it's relative. Like not a lot of players play the game anymore compared to,
I think they normalize for that when they look at engagement.
Well,
but they've said for Barbarian Assault that hard mode was not as successful as they would have liked it to have been. I agree with you. I think
they should have made the king efficient.
Insanely good.
I think they should have made the king efficient. Like
instead of 7 through 9.
Yeah. 7 to it should be 10 should be the best XP per hour. Like it's as simple as that. Like it's not.
Absolutely.
I think most people would agree.
You used a good example of God Wars 2. So God Wars 2 is a good example because how many people use Aftershock? How many people use how many different instances of Aftershock? So that's an example of a piece of content that's relevant to every single player, right? But it's mostly done by mid to high level, right? It's not super high level.
I mean, there's a lot of casual, like high level, like high skill total level, but casual players who play a lot of hours of this game who exclusively camp like Vindicta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
How do you feel about like World of Warcraft? How you can like buy like a high level account or something like that? Like,
or you get it with an expansion, or you get buy now and get a level 110.
How do you feel about that in RuneScape?
No, I think it's a bit different in World of Warcraft. Just in case if people don't know how it is, usually when a new expansion comes out, everything before that expansion becomes redundant, and that level becomes redundant as well. Like getting to that level isn't that hard. It's like for example, let's say. Sorry, let me just say, like, just to try and explain this. Let's say the current expansion is level 100, right? And the next expansion is 120. Once that expansion comes out, 0 to 100 isn't a big deal, but 100 to 120 is, right? And so like the thing is, being able to buy an account that level in WoW isn't that big of a deal. Whereas I feel like in RuneScape, depending on what levels you're talking about, can be, because there is no there's no like that expansion constantly happening where it makes everything redundant and devalues everything, the armor, the weapons, the levels.
That
doesn't really
so that's
exist
the thing
in
about
RuneScape.
Gear is a big example of that. When a new expansion comes out, you've spent the last year of your life like grinding these raids for full epics and legendaries, so you're full purpled out in your gear, and then the expansion comes out and green gear 5 levels higher is better than your purple gear that you worked
that's what
so
happens
hard for.
in World of Warcraft. So I think it's a bit different. I don't mind that maybe not max, but maybe it's like, I don't know how I feel about it, but I'm just throwing it out there, like a 70 across the board in terms of combat stats.
I
don't know how I feel about it.
I think the experience the low level experience is a lot of the charm of the game. Like getting those fast levels is more satisfying for a lot of people than levels 92 through 99.
I think an issue is that there's not enough abilities. Like I said, like I want like hundreds of abilities or variants of abilities be put in the pool. So every time you level, Like your attack, new ability.
You want skill points? You want skill points and
No, I'm
a
saying
sphere grid?
I'm saying there's the progression of combat isn't very exciting in how it is. It's like
I'd agree with that.
I want you to unlock a new ability every level. Now I can't really elaborate on this because I talked about this briefly earlier, but basically I would want multiple variants of every ability, and like, yeah, to put it very simply. But I think the issue is that there's not enough abilities, and the progression, like you don't feel like you're getting much stronger as you go by. I don't know if any of you have played a low level account recently, but that's how I felt when I was playing on Iron Man.
Yeah.
Like the best thing about an MMO is like feeling like you're getting stronger. That's like the key feature is like you want to feel like you're getting stronger and you're doing more and just.
RS does it well with questing, I feel. Like, questing is not this important in other games. Like, we talked about it briefly earlier, but, like, unlocking, Sunshine and Death Swiftness and that stuff, and unlocking curses. Curses are so huge. Unlocking Prif, combination potions. Like, the thing I believe RuneScape does best is, like, the interwoven progression. So, like, quests being super, super important means you get a level of engagement that other games do not get with their questing system.
Yeah, I really like quests in RuneScape 100% over other MMOs. Other MMOs are too linear and it's just very repetitive.
So here's a question about the early game. Like, I've always thought that when you land in Cavalry, you should get put in like a starting out chat. Like automatically.
I hate those chats. Those public chats you're talking about.
I've always thought you should do that. They'd have to be constantly moderated because they'd just be full of like gold sellers and spam bots.
There's no, dude.
But if it were only accessible to players within the first 5 hours of their game experience and player moderators, or the opposite, if you could only talk in there, after you've been vetted or something, I don't know. I just think
what's the benefit of this?
Because new players don't get engaged with anybody else until they go to search for a clan once they're already fairly leveled. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like a solo game for most people for a long, long time.
That's true.
I don't know. I feel like they should be directed to resources, but I don't think a starting chat would like itself be the solution.
Yeah,
where would you direct them? Where would you
maybe a certain world where new play, like maybe as a new player you get directed into a world and you can't go to another world.
Okay, until you hit a certain level or hit certain time
I don't
played
know,
or what?
but that would help. I don't know.
I just think it's hard to give a new player direction.
And it's exclusive to new players, so like mid-level players can't go to it maybe. I don't know. I'm just throwing thoughts out there.
Yeah, we're trying to do what Jagex has been thinking about for the last 5 years at least, maybe longer.
All right, so oh my god, there's a massive fucking question. All right, this will be the last question.
All right, last question. I gotta go.
Yeah, he's gotta go like now. What do you think of the average age of the player base is now compared to about 10 years ago and also 5 years ago? What do you think this age will be in 5 years and 10 years time? Do you think the rising age will result in older people who have less time to invest in RuneScape? So overall, how important is it to make the game appealing to the younger generation of players, i.e. the teenage kids for now and also in the future? The problem is that these kids had rather play FPS Battle Royale games rather than cut trees and fish tuna. What can we do to attract them to our RuneScape?
In terms of the current player base right now, in terms of like the high level community, a lot of like it is just university like students, like people like recently graduating or they're just starting university in the middle of university, and I don't see like many younger kids and like older people as they like work more hours. Like don't see a lot of those either.
Yeah, but so I can definitely say that is super accurate. And right after I finished university, I took like a hiatus. But the question is like the trend over time, right? So do you think, ideal, do you think that the game compared to 10 years ago is 10 years older on average? Like, do you think these are all the same people that have been playing for 10 years? Or do you think we have gained new players in the last 10 years, but the younger people went mostly to old school? Like, I think that would be the basis.
So in terms of experiences, I feel like a lot of people like 10 years ago were like mostly high schoolers playing like in the old school tier era of RuneScape. And nowadays it's not like a lot of high schoolers don't play anymore. So if like RuneScape doesn't get new players, then there's about no chance that there's going to be any younger kids still playing then.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a hype thing. So it's just going to be like casual adults playing, you know, if it's still alive.
Yeah.
Probably will be, but definitely not as alive as it was before.
So would you say something like we talked about before, where you get like hype tournaments, like not Dimension of the Damned,
Not Dimension of the Damned.
but like high PvM skill tournaments or races or something like that, sponsored by Jagex. Like, I think Old School's done a pretty good job at sponsoring their tournaments.
Skilling.
Do you think that's the Do you think that's the right
What's it called? Skill
path
of the
for
hill of the skill of the hill. What's it called? You guys know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea. I know what you're talking about. I do know what you're talking about.
What was it?
King of the Skill.
King of the skill. King of the skill. Skill of the hill.
Skill of the hill. I like that.
Yeah, King of this. Why are you typing in the chat, idea? You didn't even know what it was yourself. Yeah, King of the Skill would actually be really cool for RS3.
Yeah. So the thing is, you could only really have Ironman, or you could only do it based on base XP, which is hard for them to program. What? But they've done it before. No, they can. They've done it before.
Yeah, they've done it before.
Yeah. I think that would be great. So there's so many things you can stock up, though, in RuneScape as well. Like, you can't have a construction tournament unless you completely disallow people from using curved and long bones.
No, dailies should just be deleted, and it'd be a fresh account.
Yeah, that would be. I would support that, definitely.
Dailies deleted, fresh account, like complete separate server, Iron Man.
That would be super interesting.
I mean, that's basically what King of the Skill was, except for they didn't have to really eliminate dailies.
Yeah, because there aren't many. There's Tears of Gothics.
Wait,
but yeah, it's just been a lot more about instant gratification in gaming lately, which MMOs are like not good for at all. Not saying it's healthy for the game itself, but
it's just
they don't do something then.
I just don't think MMOs are really the future, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
you could make a small subset of the game more marketable, though, right? Like, obviously, like Battle Royale was not the goal of Fortnite, right? So there's like a PvE element, and there's other games that have similar. Battle Royale is just a small subset. So I'm not saying RuneScape should have a Battle Royale, don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is a small subset could be popular in promoting the game.
Darkscape.
What do you guys have any idea for something like that?
Well, I think yours was pretty good in that there should be a race. Like, so you were talking about a separate server where you sort of race.
But that's just a tournament.
But like a semi-permanent game mode, like Leagues and Path of Exile, where there's different gameplay elements where you can, pit people against each other. I think that would be pretty successful, but that's giving Jagex's marketing a lot of credit. So I don't know if it would end up being successful.
I just also thought about something else. What if there was like every week, every 1 day of every month, there was a tournament PvM where you got put in to a already like fully kitted out account with endless supplies, and you had certain handicaps that you can just toggle on and off, and you do bosses and you gain points based on bosses and the handicaps, and whoever has the most points in X hours.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. But balancing that's really hard. Like, how many points do you give a 4K
Yeah, I mean,
Telos
obviously,
versus somebody
this is-
somebody
this is-
playing, 23 hours a day sharing
This is
with
what I
their
mean,
brother.
like have high level players give that feedback and decide. But I feel like Jags are
Yeah.
so reluctant on listening to high level players. They literally just think like a high level player makes a suggestion, and JMod literally every time thinks they're just making that suggestion to benefit themselves, and they're doing it selfishly. It's like it's
You
impossible.
think so?
100%.
Yeah. There's like not
500%.
like no JMods are in touch with the high level. Like how many JMods are Warden? How many
That's
JMods
true.
do anything beyond that?
They think that we're biased and we're representing ourselves.
Yeah,
Well,
I will
think
say
a lot
Shogun's
of-
pretty good. Shogun's pretty good if you've talked to him recently.
Only thing I remember about Shogun is
Wasn't he the one who said continuous
C4
4 ticking
tick
is just spamming keys?
button mashing.
Yeah.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe.
I mean, I
that's
know
not a
I'm
good
focusing on only
example,
one
but
thing, but I mean,
So,
I've
like,
spoken to him a few times, but I don't.
There's different high levels. So he did the achievement bonanza. He is working on some other things that we'll go into in a later podcast. But he's been at least communicating with the high level community and taking input seriously, which is more than you can say for a lot of recent decisions that have been made.
So just to mention, we don't read Twitch chat during the podcast because it'll end up us just repeating a lot of it. So yeah. I mean, I'm reading it sometimes, but I'm not gonna respond because I'm just gonna end up repeating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think we need to have that. And like, I don't think it's like too much of a pay to win and sell out benefit, but I thought I'd give my sub some benefits, which is asking questions during the podcast, and which is what we're directing right now. But I think that concludes the podcast at this point, right? Do we have anything else we want to talk about or mention or say?
Enjoy the update on Monday, and I'm sure we will have more to talk about.
Do you have high hopes for the update?
I had higher hopes before the BTS came out because I thought they'd slip in something spicy, whether it be a boss or a new skill or something. I didn't expect the new skill, but I expected something.
So do you guys think that a new boss will be released in July or August? Go. Yes or no?
I'd go with September. Your turn.
Ideal.
I hope so.
No, what do you think? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, me.
Don't think so.
I would say no as well. New skill in the next 2 months.
February 2020.
Okay, you're not answering the question very well.
I'm giving
you're like
extra
the
detail.
person to get like a multiple answer questionnaire, and you just write your own answer rather than ticking a box.
I would just say no for both, so I'm giving you when I think they'll be out.
It's been like 3 years since the last go, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the pretty hopeful yes.
No. Alright, so do you guys think, in terms of completionism and outside of time locks, right? Do you think there will be more than a week's worth of content? So in terms of completion, like completing everything in the area, but not time lock.
I mean, that's really tough to answer excluding time lock, because what is a week, right? If you sat there for 168 hours,
okay, let's say,
pee bottles on hand.
Let's say 30 hours. More than 30 hours? Yes or no? Not including time lock.
I'd say about 30.
So.
I'd say about 30 hours is right if you were going to get your mutated surge and escape yourself. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you were going to get it yourself, sure. But if you're talking about, it will take me less than a minute to go to the GE and put in an offer for mutated surge, mutated escape, whatever the mall is called, and then whatever if the drops from the Slayer monsters are any, if Cinder Boots are any good, which obviously they will be.
Cinder Boots, don't fucking say such words.
Then no, there isn't even 30 hours.
I mean, there has to be a reward from the Slayer mobs, right? And I think they might do boots. Yeah. Like a niche.
I don't think they would because of like
so?
EDs dropping the Ruined Dragon stuff.
The boots, the 1090 boot things.
Yeah.
I mean,
It might not be boots, but there will be something. There will be
Okay.
something.
imagine if
So-
there's nothing.
Huge disappointment. Dude, limited time has gotten the servers actually like populated, so really hoping it doesn't disappoint.
Yeah, dude, they had such a huge opportunity with Solak and it flopped mainly because of the reward system and the lack of power creep. And if they flop this as well, oh my god, I'm just trying to be positive about it. I don't think I'm being
Yeah.
unrealistically positive,
Like-
but I'm just hoping it does well.
Yeah.
Omid,
you and I are just we're gonna do the D&D for whatever the pet is or the enhanced potion rest. Oh, there might be enhanced potions. Remember they were soliciting ideas for new potions?
oh
then there's a
yeah,
herb lord.
mod,
Then there's a herb lord D&D.
Orion.
Oh yeah.
Why
Yeah.
herb lord, dude? Herb lord has so much
I don't
shit.
know.
Added to
It's
like
also
another-
3 million XP an hour, so
I think they should just do that to another skill. Like it might not make sense, but it's just I think it's healthier.
yeah. Something we didn't talk about at all though was possibility of a blowpipe.
You think? I mean,
We've already seen the concept
how-
art.
Wait, what? Show me.
There's concept art for a blowpipe. I'll show you after this discussion.
Chat,
yeah.
show me blowpipe. Right now.
So there's gonna be a blowpipe. The question is it gonna be good or is it gonna be
I mean,
used
it
in Big
wouldn't-
Game
it's-
Hunter?
It doesn't
or...
work the same way, right? Because we
It's
don't
probably
really
it
utilize...
might work the same way. I don't know.
You think we're just gonna auto attack with the weapon and not use abilities? Legacy.
Go back 10 years.
Bring back
Why not?
legacy.
Anyway, there is a blowpipe. I just think it will be used only in Big Game Hunter. I don't think it's gonna be a weapon.
Yeah. Sounds reasonable.
But anyway, Omid, we're gonna do that D&D, and then it's building up base camp, and that's really it. If all the Slayer drops are tradable and there's like no pet you can only get on task, like Eddie, then there's not gonna be that much content.
Hopefully that idea of like planting a seed and making your own Slayer monster works the same way I
Let it go, Omid. You made that up.
I honestly thought that's how it is. Do we still know how? So, do we know how the mutated surgeon escape are gonna be like?
No, not
So-
really.
All right, Twitch chat. One, if it's gonna be charges and the cooldown is still 10 seconds per charge, but you can store up to 2 charges, or 2 in the chat if it's 10 seconds and then you get 2 charges. So basically 5 seconds per. I mean, that's assuming mobile. The second one was Gunner's idea, alright? Don't fucking flame me. The first one was my idea.
I was just saying the language was ambiguous.
I mean,
They didn't
obviously,
say if it would affect
I
the
don't think
cooldown.
anyone knows with certainty what
Yeah, they did talk
how
about
it's
it,
actually gonna be,
but the
how it's
language
actually
was a bit
gonna be.
ambiguous.
But I think it's gonna be with charges. But that the idea of like having charges in the game is really interesting because you can like implement it to abilities.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard my idea of like what you can do with like charges and abilities? So imagine there's an ability that has a 15-second cooldown, right? But if you use it within 5 seconds of each other, the same ability, it doubles in damage. So first time it will do 100%,
Wow.
second time 200%, third time 400%. So you can stack up to 3 charges across 45 seconds and then utilize that. Hello?
I did hear you.
Okay,
yes,
what do you
that
think?
would be crazy.
Yeah.
Anything that makes you like react actively is probably a good thing, right? Just to increase engagement.
Well, the only thing I don't like about the search thing is I think there won't be any visual cues that you have like 2 charges stored up.
You don't think we'll put a little number at the top left of the?
Yeah, I thought they
Square.
would do that as well.
Yeah, I read that they wouldn't.
Yeah,
What?
they did say that there wasn't a visual.
See,
cue,
this is what I mean. No one knows how the fuck that shit's gonna work. Like, no one.
Yeah.
right. I think a lot is subject to change between the stream they had a couple weeks ago and tomorrow. Or
Yeah, I hope
2 days
they
from
take good feedback into account.
All right. Well, I have to conclude the podcast now. Thank you for my beautiful, my lovely, my gorgeous guest, Ideal Gas.
PvM God, Ideal
Thanks
Gas.
so much.
And then I
having me.
guess thanks
Had
to
a lot
my
of fun.
co-host Dragon Seance for coming on. I guess he was okay.
You have to say that.
But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Any departing words or any comments? Any shouts? Any flame? Any shade to be thrown?
No shade, but if Land Out of Time comes and there's nothing in addition to what they've released so far, you can expect a very salty Dragon Seance and Omid arguing about totems for 6 hours on the next podcast.
Oh god.
Just want to say thanks to everyone for watching and like all the love in the community. Love like how we pasta going around, and definitely wouldn't be the same without all these people in chat. Like almost 300 viewers, and they're definitely like I think the peak
Wait,
was like
300
350,
views?
and that's insane.
Really?
It's
I
amazing.
don't like looking at the view count. So I don't know. It Ideal sounded like he was gonna cry there. Jesus Christ. Yeah. You're getting the more emotional.
Really emotional.
Yeah. He loves you guys. I love you guys too. I love you guys more. Alright. I'll give you 10 times the love Ideal Gas can give you. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate you guys tuning in. It's always a great time of Twitch chat, and the community is what makes these streams that much more enjoyable in my opinion. So yeah. Thank you for how do I end my podcast? Does anyone remember how I did it last time?
See you in 2 weeks.
See ya!